go. What's going on, everyone? Sorry about that. I have no idea what happened to the video just then. But nonetheless, it completed the way it was supposed to, and we are all here. Welcome to Day 20 of Adventures of Middle-earth, Wilderland Adventures, Episode 3, Kinstrife, and Dark Tidings, which is officially brought to you by the company Cubicle 7. Thank you very much to them. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I have been gone for just about a week. I was at Russ, my dear friend Russ Guberman, a fine member of the Our Vocalists, wedding in Los Angeles. It was awesome. We were at the Jim Henson Studios. There were 180 people there, including a number of people that have actually streamed on Twitch before. Erica Ishii and Bonnie Gordon and, folks that have streamed with me, and a bunch of other improv and acting luminaries in Los Angeles were there. They actually came in to the theme that played during the Game of Thrones Red Wedding scene, so I don't know what to say about that. But anyway, my daughter and I were both out there, and it was a very pleasant wedding and very nice. And I also got a cool goodie, which I will actually show you folks in just a minute, from the wedding. But as I've told you, I didn't think I was going to be able to stream when I was out there because I was obviously occupied making sure that my friend got safely married, and he did. But now I am back here, and now we are going to be back to normal, thank God, for a while. No travel for me until probably mid-May, and then that'll just be a weekend thing. And then no more conference travel until June. So we've got a little bit of time, and that's good because we've got some big things coming up here on the channel. Before we go any further, you guys know the way to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please follow the stream. Please follow the channel. Please make sure to let people know about it with exclamation point CTT. Please make sure to check out the various ways to support the channel by the Discord, exclamation point ArvCord. Of course, don't forget about the YouTube channel, exclamation point ArvTube, where you can see past broadcasts of the channel. And of course, don't forget about the shop, exclamation point ArvShop, which has Infinity and Beyond, my flagship campaign merchandise. I hope to add to that very soon with some other stuff, some other designs from other campaigns and things like that. And then, of course, we've got exclamation point ArvTreon for the Patreon, currently sitting at $478.96. As we get higher up in numbers, more things are going to happen. We've already got the third Arva Not Idle contest, which is going to be on tap for next month. We will be doing that, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And other things that the channel can get, so please consider supporting that if you can. And then last, but certainly not least, we have got the subsystem, the sub button, which is right above that window, currently sitting at around 40 or 41 subs, somewhere in there. So if you were able to sub or resub to the channel, that would always, of course, be much appreciated. Quick schedule note. We are doing Adventures of Middle-earth Wilderland Adventures today, continuing with the wonderful Tolkien campaign. On GOG, right after this, at 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing Dungeons & Dragons with the GOG stream team as we continue Storm King's Thunder. That will be a lot of fun. This Friday, I believe it is, we have, Esper Genesis, if I'm not mistaken, coming up on Friday. Although, quite frankly, I keep forgetting because I've been gone for it feels like for so long with all the various travel that I've been doing as of late. But I think that's right. Let me actually just make double sure about stuff. We will actually see. This is, Esper Genesis, which is going to be on Friday the 20th at 9 p.m. And then we've got on the 21st. Now, I'm going to do, at the end of this session today, I'm going to do the Patreon-fueled Chat Chosen Game of the Month nominations, and I may be doing that on Saturday, but I want to let everybody know, I'm putting out a warning that I may or may not be able to do that, and it has something to do with the Our Vocalists, because the Our Vocalists have been very hard to schedule this month, mostly because one of our prominent members, Russ, as I said, is on his honeymoon and is not going to be available until next month, and so that means that we are down to a number where I have to make sure I schedule it where we have the remaining people are there because Trending is on hiatus. So if need be, I want to be able to have the 21st open for them. So I may or may not do the Patreon fueled Chat Chosen Game of the Month this month. We will see. Depends on how things work out schedule wise, but we will see. Nonetheless, if you check that calendar, everything else there is going to be for reals and trues. A week from today, we've got D&D with Infinity and Beyond in a special bonus session. We've got a day session anyway. We've got Pen and Pixels with probably Divinity Original Sin, and then we've got Masters of the Dungeon in the evening of the 24th. So we got a lot of stuff going on, as you folks will be able to tell. All right, now, with that said, let me just get rid of this. Let me get rid of the intro scroll, which is somewhere. There it is. And let me turn on... Where's my webcam at? Let me turn on this. There we go. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I hope everybody is doing well. And yes, I want to show you all. So this is what Russ got me as a sort of groomsman gift. He got everyone a gift. He got me this. This is a vintage 19th century. I think it's actually 18 something or other. I don't remember. Pocket watch, which, as you can see right there, there is the watch. Now I've got to get a little key to actually wind it. And I didn't know where the thing winds, but if you open the back of it, there's this little thing, and that's actually a thing where you can actually go in there and wind the watch. So this is really sweet. Like, if anyone's ever seen me at a convention, they will know that I pretty much always wear vests and pocket watches when I'm sort of doing formal panels and presentations and stuff. So this was really cool. Does it not a real pocket watch? It doesn't contain someone's soul. It was a really nice gift. It was super cool too, because Russ knows me very well. As I said, he's a good friend, and he knew that this is the kind of thing I was going to be like, damn, that was really cool. So anyway, I thought that was really cool. All right, enough of that. Let me let them, and I'm going to unmute my wonderful players so they know that we're about to get started, and then I'm going to unmute them, and then I'm going to move over to the power of the Tolkien group. There, yep, see, Trent holding up a pocket watch already. I know that. Yeah, Trent and I share this love for pocket watches. It's just something inherently classy, man. It's just something classy about it. It's all that. Of course, well, yeah. I mean, that's to be pretty. Of course, it's got a wolf on it. I mean,
and then when you open it, it's got even more wolves.
More wolves.
Does it have 3 wolves and a moon? Does it?
It might. Yes. No. Well, it's got a wolf on the front, and it's got 2 wolves and a moon on the inside.
Through the 3-wolf moon pocket watch. That's good.
That's pretty awesome. And apropos of the conversation we were having, it plays, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Right?
No, it doesn't.
That song is great.
That is a good song. I didn't deny it. I'm not denying it.
It's a commemorative for the International Wolf Center.
That's awesome.
Oh.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I got my first one was actually 1492, 1992. I don't know. I didn't have the same understanding of Columbus Day when I first got this, but it was at Sears. I got it back then because I wanted to, and it was right before I went off on started debating against Canadians, and so that was basically what happened. So anyway, it was very cool, and it was a really wonderful ceremony. So congratulations to Russ, and also quick note. It was pretty sweet that they signed the marriage documents with the rabbi and with the family, with the wedding party, in the room at Jim Henson's studios where they were storyboarding a bunch of things, and they had like original pictures of Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal up on the side walls and stuff like that. Like, that's pretty badass. That just really is. It was really pretty cool. So anyway, congratulations to Russ. It was neat. And enough of that. It is time to move on to some Tolkien and to Adventures in Middle-earth because we just got through a big fight and we got some things to deal with going forward. So I will allow the players, as always, to introduce themselves, starting with the gentleman who has got some news himself, by the way, that he wishes to convey, I think, about something cool that just recently happened to him that will allow him to travel great distances. Things like that. Yes.
Wait.
Hi, Tren. What am I speaking about?
What you are speaking of is my GoFundMe drive to fund my not drive, but actually a flight to. You shouldn't call it a GoFundMe drive if I'm not driving. Anyway, whatever. To raise money to go to Seattle for the Harebrained Schemes BattleTech game launch event on the 28th.
And it worked.
It worked.
Yay! Well done.
I actually just bought the tickets as we were setting up cameras for this show because I didn't have the money yet. And so the price has gone up by like 3 times since I was looking at it originally. I was like, I need to, oh God, please. But it's fine, whatever. So yeah, there is that. And another piece of fun data, which I was informed of, I believe it was late last night. I finally got word from Mr. John Helfers that they have signed off on the BattleTech narration that I did.
Awesome. Great. Thank God. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
So I just need to, there's a point where I mentioned, like, it's talking about a specific type of rounds that's being fired out of an autocannon. And I said sabot instead of sabot. So I have to go back and change that. And then I have to do the opening and closing credits, and then I'm done.
Awesome. Sweet. That's really cool, dude. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some of this as it comes out. Super cool. And you are playing today, sir.
Yes, I am.
But who are you playing today, sir?
I am playing Tawny Bear, the Bjorning, who knows what he is now. We'll find out.
And is currently unconscious.
He's currently unconscious.
Currently unconscious.
Yeah, Connie Bear the napping. Let's call it that. Yeah.
Give a big hug to that Johnny Panda man if you see him in Seattle. I don't think John's gonna be out at that thing. I don't believe, but I'm sure that if he is, Trent will be happy to give him a hug. In the panda suit, yes. But always a pleasure.
I don't have a panda suit.
No, John does. This is why he has his Twitter name of Radio Johnny Panda. Inside info. Yes. He played a panda once, and I saw it. But anyway, it is a pleasure to have Trent with us. As always, I'm looking forward to seeing what we get from Tawny Bear today. Also looking forward, of course, to seeing what we get from the inimitable Mr. Encounter Roleplay himself, and that, of course, is our friend Will Jones. Hello, Will. How are you? How's life and the universe and everything, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I am tired, but I fought this morning a spider as large as Shelob.
Oh my god.
It was like gigantic, and Sid woke me up, and I've been asleep for about an hour, so I was really grumpy, and I woke up and I saw the spider, and it was absolutely terrifying. Scariest thing I've seen in my life. Reminded me of our own adventures in
Markwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that thing. It was absolutely fucking terrifying. So I'm still riding on that high, really, of
the adrenaline, like
adrenaline rush. It's enough for me for the rest of the month, I think.
That's funny.
I take my kicks in role-playing games, and not in real life. But that was quite exciting. But no, other than that, I'm good. I've next week I got my new season starting on my own show, so I'm tired and stressed and worried and organizing people and sponsors and stuff like that. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be to Robot Stolen, who will be unconscious today. At least in the beginning.
Also unconscious, yes.
Also unconscious. So my tiredness reflects Robar's own exhaustion. So
yes.
Really thought I just method this one, and yeah.
Welcome. I think actually for full effect though, you should have just like come to us on a pile of gravel, because like that's basically just him sliding down the hill.
Yeah. That would have been more professional.
That would have been full commitment, man.
Yeah, I remember thinking last week, because we were already exhausted and tired. The first thing that we came in on, all of us were like, so tired. And I was like, anyone tuning into this right now is thinking we're giving really lackluster performance.
Yeah,
because my character's tired.
Yeah, it was of course you guys brought it as you always did in the end. So you did so, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things work out today. Moving right on down the line, we of course have got the also inimitable Terry Tunes. Hello, Terry. How is life in the universe and everything? We had a real discussion about every version of metal that exists, and
no,
Terry was partially
we
our guide.
Scratched the surface.
No,
I feel we now know everything. No, Terry was our guide, though, through much of it, and it was an interesting journey and troubling in some ways.
Scratch the surface.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, I guess. Wisdom teeth trouble. But other than that, I've been to the Comic Yard this weekend, despite sickness. Like I could only go the Sunday. Saturday I had to go see a doctor. But yeah, that was nice. But yeah, that's what I have been up to. I guess I should introduce my character.
Yes, sure.
That is Inge, who is a dwarf from the Erebor. And she is a stonemason and a wanderer, and she has a cute pony sidekick named Lilleman. Yeah.
Very cool. And Lilleman, unlike a certain other pet, did not disobey Inga in this particular fight. Although it did occur to me that it would have been funny to have Lilleman leaping like with the small little pony legs off from the the sun shining behind the pony. But no, Lilleman did not do that. So I'm looking forward. Also, happy birthday, Conrad, by the way. You still need to murder the spider that's following you? Well, I mean, maybe the spider will understand it's your birthday and stay away. Maybe that will happen, I hope. But anyway, happy birthday, sir. But it's awesome to have Terry with us, and moving right on down the line, last but certainly not least, of course, we have Amal with us. Hello, Amal. How are you? And who are you playing and all that good stuff, and how's life been so far?
Life has been wacky because there's been an ice storm kind of battering the south of Ontario for the last few days, and we got very little of it in Ottawa, but yesterday was really epic in an actual literal way. Like, you could write a foundational story about walking down the streets and enormous gusts of wind like rattling and shaking the huge chunks of ice that have adhered to the electrical lines and trees, just kind of flinging that off of them so that people just walking quite a ways away could still get battered with like several pounds worth of ice. It was really scary, like strange weather. And I mean, I lived through the, what was it, 1997 ice storm in Quebec, and it was bad, but it was also more, I mean, it was bad. It was like knocked out all sorts of power and stuff like that, which yesterday's did not do for me, but the wind and everything just made it so strange to be outside. It's weather I've not really seen before. But today it's just snowing, and by the end of the week it should be like sunny and summer again. So it goes.
It should be fine. I should say that in, just so everybody knows, in Los Angeles it was as usual warm and sunny. I was then touching down in Newark when it was rainy and cold. So I feel like weather is a thing. So soon anyway, Ottawa weather will return to normal, I hope.
I hope so too.
Semi-normal.
Tulips are starting to like poke up. We usually have a tulip festival in April to, I know, like commemorate that time during the Second World War when Canada declared a patch of like hospital where the Princess of Holland was being born, Dutch territory or something like that. So they gave us like 2,000 tulip bulbs, and we celebrate that every year. But hopefully they'll survive. I was sort of ranting about the weather because in part I have been having difficulty logging into Roll20.
Yeah,
So,
I know you and Terry said the same thing. Will posted that Roll20 did have a big site outage yesterday, and they posted today that they're still like doing testing and working and stuff like that. Roll20 has actually had 2 problems over the last 2 weeks with major collapses, which for up to this point, Roll20 had like almost none of that. So this is very unusual for them, but the good news is that, I mean, I hope you guys can log in, but the good news is that I don't think you will need a lot of map stuff today unless things go very differently than I expect. So that's the good news. But anyway.
You can do the checks for us and stuff.
I can't log in.
I will try to do that. Yeah,
I can log in, but I can't launch the game. No matter what browser I try.
Okay. Well, so maybe just keep making periodic efforts. In the meantime, we'll make checks if we need to. You guys can still get to your dice rollers. Yeah, I was going to say. So, but you are playing today, Amal.
I'm playing the death of my lungs. No, I'm playing a character called The River, who is a woodsman of Rosgobel, and she is a fighty bard who has done a lot of fighting lately, more than barding, but is hoping for more of the latter and less of the former in coming days.
Yes, and I think that will actually be granted as I get the music started here. So I am very happy to have this group back with me. Last session, for those of you who missed it, was eventful. It was an eventful session during which a bandit ambush led by a man named Walter the Bloody was ultimately thwarted. But it was a near thing, I think the party would say at times. They were, first of all, already tired, exhausted when they had gotten to this place, and they were wildly outnumbered. There were about 50 or 60 of these bandits versus about 4 of them, and then a half later on. That came up later on. You were able to log in, Terry? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So eventually you'll be able to launch it, I think, Amal, eventually. So they were able to defeat the bandits, but it was a very near thing. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of tactical decisions that had to be made about when they were going to confront them. Tawny Bear, in particular, when they first arrived, and the bandits first arrived, was sitting kind of almost wearily on a boulder. Not almost, but definitely wearily on a boulder. But when they arrived, Tawny made very clear that he was not pleased with their arrival, and of course he was not pleased with this fight, because Tawny, a avowed pacifist, proved in part why he was a pacifist by his reaction as he prepared to savagely attack and do terrible things to the people that were attacking him. He was not, and probably this is a consequence of having been a pacifist and having not been able to maybe focus as much as he would have liked to, and so as a consequence he was not as effective in combat as he might have hoped. That and the fact that they all surrounded him, so he was being attacked by like 5 guys at once, and so ultimately he went down. down. Robar, who actually did some good work against Walter at first with a couple of arrows, and then ended up jumping down the hill, sort of challenging Walter directly. He also went down under a hail of both arrows and sword attacks by Walter, who was responding to him. Both of those were unconscious. River was badly hurt. The River was badly hurt in this fight, and even Inga got a little bit a scratch or two, although Inga was relatively unscathed. Inga had a very dramatic moment of leaping off the side of this valley, leaping into the valley, and then decapitating the guy with one cruel stroke. So Inga was definitely not having any of it. And the other person who leaped off of the side of the valley was not even a person, but a dog, because Stone disobeyed the River and made a heroic leap to help his mistress, was able to actually do some good work in working with those creatures, although he was also attacked and hurt by the bandits, for which they must obviously have faced the ultimate penalty, because you just don't hurt dogs. It's just, you don't do that, and that's how it goes. But through the combined powers of the party, they managed to hold back, basically delay the bandits long enough for the arrival of Bjornings, and soon after that, Bjorn himself, who arrived in full, enormous, ridiculous, oh my god, this is him, bear form, basically tearing apart the bandits that were left, crushed Walter below him, and essentially routed them. Thanks again to the party having held them back. And if the party had not been able to convince Oderic to lead them into this gloomy fold where the battle took place, it could have gone very ill for both the Bjornings and for the party themselves based upon that attack. So in a way, as it was, two of the party members were down and dying and had to make death saves, and that was with an ambush and inside this valley. So, I mean, it could have been a lot worse, but the party did manage to survive. The Stone managed to survive, and Lilliman is safely back, hopefully, the party hopes, back where they were both told, Stone and Lilliman, to stay, but Stone disagreed because, no, that's just not how he goes down. And Stone arrived just in the nick of time. So as the adventure begins, as we restart the adventure here, both Tani and Robar are lying on the ground. They are currently unconscious but stable. Stone is next to Tani Bear. River and Inga are next to Robar. And they are, as I said, unconscious. There is still a number of corpses of bandits on the ground. There are also the corpses of some Bjornings. And Bjorn himself, in bear form, sort of snuffled, pushing against Tani Bear, and then has gone off just temporarily, has sort of wandered off down the side. Maybe, he's growling as he goes, and some of the Bjornings seem to be nodding as he growls, so it's possible that he's telling them that he's going to look after some of the other bandits or make sure that no one else escapes or something. But in any case, the party is, with some Bjornings around them, more or less able to do what they like. Oderic, by the way, is also here. He's sitting on a boulder. He also looks as if he was hurt, but not critically so. And so he is sitting stiffly on a boulder as we begin. I leave it up to the two conscious members at the moment. River and Inga, what do you want to do?
So River is going to... River's next to Inga, and she's just finished stabilizing Robar, and looks back over to where Tani is and where Stone is, and is about to say to Inga, are you all right to stay with Robar? But then sees Oderic, and then says to Inga, I think we should go talk to him. I want to go see if he needs any help. Do you want to stay with Robar, or do you want to come with?
Is he going to be all right?
Robar?
Yeah.
I think so. I think I'm no great physician, but I think that he'll be fine until we find better care for him.
No, I think I will stay here.
Okay. River's going to pat her on the shoulder and wander over to Oderic.
Okay. So, and I see that you were able to get in, so that's cool.
Yes.
All right. So you wander over to Oderic, who is, in case you're curious, is just right here on the map. He is just sitting at the moment. And actually, do I have a picture? I think I do. Yes, just on OBS. You're not going to see it here, but this is Oderic for people who don't know what Oderic looks like. So Oderic is sitting on this boulder, as I said, kind of wearily, and he doesn't look up as you approach. He may not even be aware that you're there, actually. He's just kind of head bent, sort of looking at the ground.
She says, Oderic.
And he kind of looks up. You can see that his face is streaked with sweat and with dirt. You can see that he does have he's holding his left leg, rather stiffly, with one hand, and then his other hand is kind of on the hilt of his sword, and you can actually see that he's drawn his sword and just put it blade downward, point downward into the ground, and he has his hand sort of resting on it, and he looks up, and again, exhausted, sweaty, dirty, and he sort of eyes widen a little bit in recognition. You made it then. You all made it here. That's good. That's good.
Thanks to you. Thanks to what you did.
And he sort of shakes his head. He said, I don't know. If it wasn't for me, maybe the attack wouldn't have happened in the first place.
I doubt that. Someone named Walter the Bloody is probably going to become vicious at some point or another, regardless of your level of involvement. Are you all right though? Do you need any help?
It's just my leg. One of them got the back of me while I was fighting two others. But I put paid to him in the end. I guess I remembered some of my lessons. And you can see now, River, that, his sword is stained with blood. Like, there is a lot of blood on this. So Derek was clearly not sitting around and watching from a distance. He did some serious work here. And he says, I just in the back of the leg, and he kind of reaches, and you see that he has his hand, as I mentioned, over in the leg, and as he moves it, you can see that the lower portion, like sort of the pant portion, is stained with some kind of liquid, presumably blood. And he kind of winces, and he said, it's fine. I just need to get it bound up, I guess.
All right. We've been making medicine checks and stuff. I don't know how that actually translates to what available stuff is there.
For something like this, you would be able to, assuming that you just want to tear a piece of cloth, which you would probably have, you wouldn't need to make a check for that. He's not in immediate danger, although if he was going to go run somewhere, it probably wouldn't be easy for him to do that at the moment. But yeah, the other ones, the medicine checks were because your friends were literally in danger of death. But he's not in that position.
Okay, so River's just going to tear some cloth off of either a tunic or something that looks relatively clean, and try to bind it.
Okay, and he kind of, as you tie it around, he's, and he doesn't say anything, but just kind of winces like as you're sort of doing it. And you can see now that indeed it looks as if basically it looks not a cut, it looks like a stab wound, like someone basically stabbed him in the back of the leg, which is, frankly, most honorable soldiers don't do that unless they're trying to, get one up on somebody. It's kind of a dirty way to fight. And but you sort of bind it, and finally when you finish with this, takes a few minutes, he sort of nods. Thanks. I think that'll be all right for now. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere fast, but I guess I won't be able to go anywhere anyway. And he kind of looks, because he sees that there are some of the Bjornings that you see kind of gathered, have been talking to each other. You see a few of them are basically glancing in your direction, River, and are sort of muttering to each other and fixing with Oderic, which can only be classified as not generous looks.
River turns and meets some of their eyes and just kind of holds their gazes, like daring them to do anything.
And they shake their head and then turn away and sort of mutter to each other as they're...
So she's going to look to Oderic and say to him, I think there's going to be a lot of explaining that needs done. And I just want you to know that we're all on your side here, and we will support you in however we can. But there will be an accounting you're going to have to give of yourself and your actions, I expect. I think you should also go over and talk to Inga. I think she's had things she's wanted to say to you on someone else's behalf for a while.
And he nods and he says, I'll do that. And then he looks over to the right and he sees Tawny still lying on the ground. Stone, who's kind of sitting, looking between you and Tawny, like occasionally sort of seems vaguely protective. Although you can see that occasionally Stone lifts up his paw and kind of licks at a cut, because he, as I said, got kind of badly cut. And Odoric nods in that direction. He says, "Are they going to be okay?"
I think so. I'm going to go and check just now. But I think we're all... She looks around, sort of disbelievingly, but I think we're all going to be okay.
And he says, "Yes. Well, at least some of us." And his eyes fall on a Bjorning who is face down, who will never move again. And then kind of looks back at you and says, "But we're still here, I guess." And he kind of rises to his feet, sort of again uncomfortably, and then using his sword almost as a cane, or essentially kind of limps off towards Inga and Robar. Now, the other thing I'm going to mention here is, so Inga, you're working on Robar, and as you do this, I'm going to say that enough time has passed that Robar, not Tawny Bear yet, but Robar has got a hit point left. So Robar, you're able to kind of eyes flick open, you are in a lot of pain. First of all, you're lying on what feels like something sharp. A bunch of sharp things are poking into your backs for some reason. And you see Inga sort of bent over you with concern. You can see her axe the edge of her axe is slightly notched and very bloody. And she has this odd combined look of concern and also relief almost, perhaps. And you also hear the sound of something coming towards you that almost sounds like some steps that seem to be halting steps. But you can't really see that right now because you're just sort of staring up at the sky.
Yeah, I think he sort of blearily comes round. It's like, oh, where am I? Oh, Inga.
Well, you slept for a long time, I suppose.
I feel bad.
Yeah,
Did I get shot like 3 times?
let me count. Was he shot 3 times?
There are like, yeah, there's like 3 arrows like right next to him. Like
3
in
times. Better not move yet.
Yeah, I don't.
He drinks this, and she hands him like water skin.
Okay. You're gonna have to stand. You're gonna have to sit yourself up. Robar, make a quick Constitution check for me. I just want to see something about how you do this. Don't worry, it doesn't involve death. That's see whether you survive. And
Nice.
wow, you're just like, yeah. So that's interesting. So so you drink the water. All right, then I'm going to ask you. You reach for the water skin. How then do you sit up? Given that, I'm going to give you the chance to explain how you do it.
She helps him up, by the way.
Yeah, he really helps him up, and it's like, not realizing how thirsty he is, and then realizing that you're like so thirsty.
Yeah.
And like, greedily goes after it. Probably doesn't do him any favors in terms of the wounds, but kind of sits up and is like, "Oh, thank you. Oh, did we win?"
As you look around, it's a little questionable, Robar, because there's a lot of bodies.
Yeah. Where are the others? Where's River? And...
Yeah, I think we won. River is over there, and she like points in the general direction she saw River going without actually turning around.
Okay.
Okay, and Tawny, is he okay?
I think so. I didn't pay attention. Is he okay? I don't know. Ask River, she would know.
Oh,
okay. Am I gonna live?
Like, Inga looks like him up and down. I think so. Probably, yeah.
Ah, damn.
I like how every answer is maybe. Possibly. I could be. I think so.
You got a magic 8 ball from now on. Like signs point
to yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I need to sit here for a while and just.
Yep. Like, don't
recover.
move better before like a proper healer. Like.
Is Volter dead?
Well, I saw Bjorn pick him up and like smash him against a rock. So. I didn't look at the remains, but I doubt anybody would survive that. So, probably, yes.
Yeah, Robar, actually, as you look, because you're looking the other direction, Inga's still looking at you. As you look over, you can see I'm not going to try not to overdo the graphic here, but you see a smashed body and a indiscernible head. It's indiscernible because you have no idea what used to be on it. Bjorn has eliminated. If that's, you're pretty confident that you're looking at what probably is Walter, and that isn't going to be the end of that. Walter has lived up to his name in a different way. And you also see a familiar figure, and very quickly, as your mind kind of clears, you see that it's actually Oderic, who's coming towards you. He's limping, holding himself up on his sword, basically. His left leg is bound tightly with a tourniquet, and he comes close to you and says, yeah, I'm glad that both of you made it. Inga, you now hear this from behind you.
Yeah, like Inga turns around.
Yep, and you see Oderic too in the way that I've described.
And oh, you made it. Very good. That's good. Wunhild will be relieved, I hope. I think.
And he nods and he says, I hope so. Is she? Well, she can't be. And he sort of looks around wild-eyed for me. He's like, wait, she's not here, is she?
I haven't seen her, so I wouldn't know.
He kind of looks back and says, all right, well, there's time enough for that later, I guess.
I mean, she probably wouldn't have had time to come here, I suppose.
He nods. He says, oh, yes, I suppose that's true. And he sort of looks at you, Robar, and he says, you look as if you've been through a lot. The understatement of the year.
I just get, like, Robar just gives him this, like...
Oh, it's so good! Oh, I want a gif of that! That's so good!
That was pretty funny. And
quick question.
He sort of gives you this weak smile, like in return, like, you know. Yes, question.
Does Inga know that Helmgard is dead?
Let me
Because
think.
like she saw like the funeral, but like I don't know
Doesn't
if she
know
like
who it
actually
was,
found
correct.
out who that was. I know somebody found out.
The person who saw, I think, Tani, one of you did really well on your perception check and was able to kind of determine. Well, Tani knows actually because he went into the village.
He was there.
Yes,
No,
so
River
Tani
saw it.
knows.
And I saw the boat.
And you saw the boat. I think it was River might have seen it also, but didn't necessarily know who was there. Is that fair? So it may just be Tani that knows who it was.
Okay.
Pretty sure that River was told, actually.
Maybe you were told. Yeah.
Because we were told at the crossing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like, so I'm pretty sure that we're actually. In fact, Inga, I think you must know as well, because I think you were at the crossing first.
Yeah.
So I think that the lot of us actually know that he's dead.
Okay.
Okay. So then you do.
Derek, I have some bad news for you, though, not regarding Brunhild, but it appears that Helmgard has passed away.
And he looks at you and he says, What do you mean? When? How?
I'm not entirely sure when exactly, but like when we made our way up north, we found out that they had a funeral. I don't know the specifics of what happened, but
he bends his head and he sort of kind of lowers himself almost to one knee and he says, I didn't expect to feel when I left I didn't care what happened to him, but now I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He doesn't cry, but he's just kind of staring off.
But this, you know what this means, right? That means that you even must stay alive harder, because now you are probably the only person Brunhild has left. And yeah.
And he says,
please don't die.
He says, I guess I've survived this long. But it may not even matter, Inga. They're gonna put me on trial and, well, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we will make sure that you get out of this trial alive. That is what's going to happen and nothing else.
And he sort of looks at you and kind of shakes his head as if in disbelief. And he says, I don't understand why you've been so kind to me. I don't deserve it from anybody.
Well, I mean, you've clearly proven here that you are one of the good guys here. I mean, whatever you have done, like this must, like the fact that you like managed to like fool Walter and his men into this ambush, like that accounts for so much already, and I'm sure that Bjorn will agree.
He nods a little bit uncertainly and he says, they almost didn't do it. They couldn't understand why we went this direction, and finally I had to stand up and to Walter myself and say if he didn't believe me, he was going to have to kill me. And he pulled out his sword and then he just laughed and he sheathed it again and said, I wasn't brave enough to lie. And he lowers his head and then he says, he looks back up, he says, you know, the people of Stonyford always said you can't trust outsiders. Well, they were wrong about that. And they were wrong about you. And he puts his hand on your shoulder for a second, Inga, and then you see him sort of quickly like go at his eyes like he's wiping away something, and then he turns, actually he nods at Robar first, and then he turns and kind of, then he kind of, limps off. Go ahead, Robar.
When he places a hand on Inga, Robar makes kind of
and then he turns and he kind of like hobbles off. Okay. As you guys are having this conversation, you then see, now of course, River, as you're coming close to Tani, you can see that he is still unconscious. And you come up to him. As you do, Stone kind of stands up to a standing position, and as he does, almost immediately sits back down, and you can see that he kind of... and you can see that his left haunch, I mentioned that his left paw is the one that he's been going at, but his left haunch also seems cut, and it looks as if when he was hit by this one that basically they just slashed him in both legs. So he, he's kind of just lying, he's just sort of sitting there, and he kind of whimpers and looking at you. But he doesn't fall over, and he doesn't, but it seems to be, he's gonna need some help.
Kind of jogs over to him and just kind of like scritches him behind his ears and brings her face close to his and says, "You are the best companion anyone could ever have. Best dog." And is gonna start if she has a water skin on her, she'll start washing those wounds and trying to bind them as well.
Okay. So you do that, and the water kind of, begins to wash off some of the dirt and the blood. His tail, of course, when you said this, is wagging sort of slowly, and he licks you, but you can tell that normally Stone would be, bowling you over, basically, but Stone is, he licks you sort of meekly, I guess might be the way to put it.
I think
calmly.
Stone has more hit points than River does right now.
That's true, probably. I think that's actually true. He does. No. Actually, no. You know what? You have the same amount. Both of you have
great.
two.
Okay,
both
good.
of you have 2 hit points. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. She'll tend to herself after him, though.
Yes, because you're in a lot of pain too. So as he is doing this, you hear sort of movement from behind you, and then you see someone coming up. This is the one I would have hoped to see the least down on this field. And as you turn around, River, you can see that it's the enormous and now human again form of Bjorn, who looks down at Tani and Stone with concern, although he's focused more on Tani at the moment. And he sort of bends down to one knee and lowers his great head just with one ear over Tani's mouth as if to listen. And then he sort of... and he pulls out from a pouch at his belt. he has what looks like essentially it looks like a sort of a cake, but it's not quite like the cakes that Tani makes. It seems to be, for one thing, not crumbly, but more soft. And he kind of runs it along Tani's lips and then kind of opens his mouth, sort of tilts his head up and kind of puts just a little bit of this cake in, and then sort of massages the throat, essentially, so that Tani will swallow it. And he shakes his head and he says, I hope this works. Tani, I need you to make a constitution check for me, please.
River is hovering awkwardly around Bjorn at this point, saying things like, is he going to be all right? I did what I could, but I just...
He says he's made of stronger stuff. I think he'll be all right, but... And he looks up, he says, and you'll need to tend to yourself, too.
I'm fine.
And he looks up, he says, I know what fine looks like, and it's not that. Stone, Stone, who you've now managed to, like, wrap some, again, the tourniquet around, like, his wounds look a little bit cleaner. Sort of, you feel him, like, bumping his head into the back of your leg. River is almost as if he's, like, sit down, like, poof, 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 like, very insistent. As you know, Stone can be very insistent when he wants to be. And so he's like, bump, bump, repeatedly.
Just like, I'll in a second.
Tani, you come up to this 1 hit point level, and I'll let you describe what happens.
So, upon swallowing is not quite the right word.
No.
Sort of having cake shoved down one's throat, and the slowly kind of starting to come back to consciousness, but fitfully, and just like almost as though you're slowly waking up from a nightmare of some kind, where you're just starting to grunt and kind of thrash and toss and turn, and you just suddenly his eyes just snap open and he just swings.
Okay, and as he swings out, by the way, just quick, you have 2 possible target, well, 3. Bjorn, Stone, and the river. Are there any of those 3 in particular, or do you want to just randomly determine it?
Randomly determine.
All right, so go ahead and roll a 4-sided dice, subtract 1 for me.
1d4 minus 1.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So, you lash out at the river. River, you see he just lashes out, and then maybe an inch before your face, because you're obviously rather taken aback by this, this great hand, whoosh, grabs it just before it hits your face, and that's the hand of Bjorn. And Bjorn says, Easy, the fight's in the past, Tani. The fight's in the past, man. And he kind of pulls your hand back down. You can tell me how much you're resisting or not. Although he's stronger than you.
I was going to say, it's not going to make a great deal.
No, but it depends on how you want to play it, though. I mean, yes, he's going to be able to do it regardless, but are you trying?
He's still wired. And
okay.
So he's fighting. It's still not quite clear who it is. He's just big target right now.
And he says, Tani, we've won. Put the animal back now. Put it back now. The time's not now. Put it back where it belongs.
And his breathing gradually slows. And he just looks up once at the river, and this look of absolute, just woeful sorrow as the realization finally kind of dawns on him of what he's done. And then his eyes going to drift over to Bjorn with a mix of sort of thank you and just self-loathing, and then he just sort of passes out and drops back again.
Okay. And Bjorn looks up at River and says, it would take too long to explain now what he's been through, but that wasn't meant for you. It's, if much as anything, he's striking at himself.
I understand.
And he kind of, he sort of stands up and he says, he needs rest now. So do you. And he turns and walks down towards you, Robar, and Inga. And so, River, I'm going to ask you what you do in a minute. Robar and Inga, you caught the tail end of that because you heard the sound of the roar, and then you looked over to see Bjorn had grabbed Tani's hand, and you couldn't really tell what it was striking or what it was doing, but it was certainly doing something. And then you saw him kind of slump down, and Bjorn comes back towards you and then says, I have many of my people that I have to look to, and of course. And he looks over at Oderic, and he sort of does a double take for a second, and he looks back to the two of you, and he says, I'll thank you properly when we have the chance. But in the short term, I'll simply say, you've proven yourself to be worthy of the respect that all non-Bjornings should get. They deserve more than perhaps I've given them in the past. Thank you for helping us when we needed it. And as for you, and he turns, he says to Oderic. Oderic kind of looks at him nervously, and Bjorn says, so, you're one of the ones who started all this trouble, are you? And Oderic kind of sort of looks at him, doesn't say anything, just kind of looks solemnly. Well, holds his gaze, though, doesn't turn away. And he says, you'll be brought to trial, and we'll have it at the Carrack tomorrow morning. I'm taking you. Several of my people will be with you. If you try to run, you die. And he turns and, like, without even looking to see if the kid even, if Oderic listened to him, he just walks off. And as he does this, two Bjornings come up alongside Oderic, who now is, of course, standing again. And Oderic kind of looks at both of you, Robar and Inga. As I said, he had been walking a little bit. He had actually turned and walked away from me a little bit. But he stops, obviously, when the Bjornings arrived. And he looks back at both of you. And he has this expression of kind of both resolve and great deep sorrow etched on his face. And then he sort of nods, and he especially looks at you, Inga. And then he is...
Inga, like, jumps up when she sees this happening, like the two Bjorns.
Now, they're not being cruel to him, in fairness. I want to make that clear. They haven't, like, grabbed him or anything. They're just next to him.
Yeah, like, she runs up to them, like, hobbles up to them, because she's also pretty badly injured,
I was going to say.
But yeah, she was like running on adrenaline basically, which is now like kind of fading away. But she runs up to them and says, "If you take one hair off him, I'm gonna end you. Like, do not hurt him. I'm seriously." And she's like pointing upward.
Yeah.
Because she's so short.
Yeah, right. Yeah, up on the Bjornings, and the Bjornings, one of whom is seems to have a sort of nasty cut on his arm. The other one seems relatively unscathed. I mean, everybody's dirty and sweaty, but. They both look down at you, and the cut one says impassively, he'll get what he deserves, whatever that is that Bjorn says. It is Bjorn's law we will listen to. We thank you for your help. You can be at the trial when it happens, but until then, do not get between Bjorn and the law and this boy.
So where are you taking him till tomorrow?
And they say, and the other non-injured one says, back to Bjorn's house. That's where we've been ordered to bring him. He'll be kept without harm and safe until then. And Oderic says, Inga, it's all right. They won't hurt me. Not until after the trial.
They better not.
They won't. He says, but take care of your friends here too. And if you can all come tomorrow, I don't deserve it, but I'd be grateful anyway.
Of course we'll be there. You think?
And he smiles and nods, and then he turns with them, and they walk off up this northeastern spur. Okay, so what I want to ask now, River, I'm going to ask what you're going to do, and then I'm going to ask the party as a whole what their next course of action is going to be. The trial, as you've just heard, is going to be tomorrow morning at the Carrack. So the question is, what do you want to do now? I believe part of it will be resting and healing, is my guess, but I'm just checking.
The first thing River wants to do, or the thing that River wants to do before leaving this area, is to look for Tawny's staff that got tossed to the side and find it.
Yes, and you actually do find it. It's up here to the northeast, actually more or less the way that the Bjornings and Oderic went. And you come across the staff, and you see that the staff currently is lying in two pieces, broken over the body of some creature. No doubt one of the bandits. No doubt it was perhaps just accidental. Someone fell on top of somebody else and cracked it. And yet it lies over the body of the man in two pieces.
Oh. River's sort of heart sinks, but she takes both pieces and gathers them up and puts them in her pack if she has one, and is going to try to organize people into helping carry Tawny back to wherever they're all going to get healed.
All right. Robar, what about you? And Inga, what about you?
If Robar can walk, then he'll walk, but he probably needs
A stretcher.
Limp would be, I mean, you can limp badly, like, or yeah, I mean, you could theoretically wade. There are a couple of other Bjornings who are walking around who look relatively strong of limb. They're tending to some injured people, and you can see that the Bjornings did not get out of this without cost. There are probably a good 14 or 15 of them that are dead, and one or two of them that look like they're not going to last much longer. Of course, there's way more dead bandits, probably 40 at least. There's a lot of corpses here, and Walter himself. But you can still see that there are a good, 5 or 6 of them still around here. Many of them have left already, but there's still a few, 5 or 6, and a couple of those look strong of limb. So you could, if you wish, request that they, carry you or something like that if you want.
Rig up a travois.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
Inga's
Inga's
can
will.
we get some help here?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Then
Inga's will
walk.
probably would not allow her to drag Robar by herself. I think that'd be.
Yeah.
Goddamn
Well,
woman
she
hero.
would, but like.
She would try. Yeah, exactly. Over the rocks. I'll help you. Ow!
No, get the
No,
others.
stop! No. But no, she's able to. Yeah, you actually do have a couple of Bjornings who come over, and after you explain, they sort of lift you up, more or less, almost put you across their shoulders with your two arms out, Robar, because your injury was more in the torso, and it hurts a lot. Like every time, like you bang against their backs as they're bringing you, you're like bump, like it's like just a jolt of ow, every time. This hurts a lot, but nonetheless, they are able to move you that way. Inga, are you going to follow? And a couple of Bjornings are with you, River, helping you do the same for Tawny. Inga, are you going to follow like right behind them, the ones that have Robar, or what are you doing?
No, first Inga is gonna go see what's left of Walter.
Not a hell of a lot. His body is there. What's left of it, slashed and burned, and his head is, as I said, just smashed.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's just smashed. Yeah.
So is there like anything of interest popping out? Like, I don't know, like some item or something, I don't know, that like would catch her.
There does not appear to be. Oh my goodness, the resub. Thank you, Nonstop, for the resub. I appreciate it. Thank you. Could we get some Arv hypes in there? Thanks, Nonstop. Good to see you, man. There is not. He has his longsword that he's got that he was using is a very strong, I want to say evil-looking weapon, but I don't want you to be. You mean it's cursed? I just mean that it looks like it looks nasty.
On it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Spikes.
It's completely metal. No, it's not that. It's totally metal. No, it's not like that. It's actually, yeah, they're actually rubber spikes because they're not real. No, no, it's not like that. It's more that you're aware that there are many ways to sharpen and deal with weapons. One of the ways that you can deal with something is if you deliberately sharpen it enough to cut, but leave it a little bit blunt so that it can hurt. And this sword looks like on both areas there's almost some rust on the very edge of it, not enough to break it, but enough that it would have made any cuts and stuff that it did even nastier. And maybe, Robar, this is why you're in so much pain as you're being bumped along. This is the weapon of someone who wanted to inflict hurt. You can tell, not just do the deed of eliminating a threat. Beyond that, his armor, if it ever was useful, is sure as hell not useful now. It's been pretty much destroyed. You can see, it would be interesting if you could see his expression, but of course you can't. But you do note one interesting, rather grim detail, and that is that his right hand is extended and is almost oddly clean, and it is extended as if it was stretching out towards something when the end came. So
What is it stretching out for?
The only thing you can see is it's on the ground. It was kind of like stretched out on the ground. His left hand was behind him. His sword was lying next to his right hand. But it looks more as if he was basically the sky, maybe, because remember that he was brought up by Bjorn holding him by the neck and then smashed him to the ground. He could have been reaching for air. He could have been reaching for a moment of glory. Walter, the would-be king. You don't know.
Well, since there's nothing else left to do, apparently, Inga just like steps up and like straight up spits on his corpse and walks away.
Seems
like basically she's using her axe as like a walking stick at this point.
okay. Seems appropriate on all levels.
Double.
The other thing, I should have said, there is, as you're walking away, I want you to make a perception check for me, please. Actually.
Yes, sir. 19.
Yep. There is a small.
Why couldn't we get these rolls last?
I know exactly. After the fact, you guys are great on the aftermath. No. So you see, there's actually a small, what looks like not a tiny, but like a, I don't know, a shopping bag, like to come out of character for just a moment, like a plastic bag you might get from the grocery store size, leather bag. And as you're walking away, you almost stumble over it. It's only a couple of feet away, actually, from Walter. And it could have been something that was hanging on his belt, which was thrown off of him, or it could have been this is the thing he was grabbing for. You don't know. But there is a sack that's there. And as I say, you kind of almost trip over it. There seems to be something inside it.
Well, I mean, as she like trips over it, like she lets out a short wolf curse, and then like proceeds to pick it up and see what's going on with his bag.
It's a little heavy. Do you want to look inside?
Yes, please.
You find inside it a grotesque, mummified human head.
What?
Like she almost drops it.
Yep.
Out of shock at this, and is like.
Yep.
Like
Eyes
a
have been.
glance. Does she recognize who
No.
this could be?
No.
I hope not.
It's kind of no. It's a sort of dark-haired thing. It could even have been not one of the bandits like right now, but it could have been like maybe from the same area as the bandits came from. Many of them. The eyes have been sewn shut, and the mouth. It is grotesque, as I said.
Well.
But it was clearly ritualistically done. This is clearly not just, oh, I killed someone and took his head. Like, this is mummified. It seems as if this has been done a long time ago.
That's just disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah, she keeps it for now.
Okay. All right. And so you set off down the way. All right. Now, what I'm going to ask us to do here is, as we get back to Bjorn's house, if anyone has any, does anyone have any hit dice left that they can use for hit points and so forth? Because I'll allow you to do that. You can't take a long rest yet because see previous things I've talked about. However, I will allow you to remove a level of exhaustion if you have one. I think actually 3 of you have 2, so I'll let you take 1 level off of that. And then you'll be able to use your hit dice as much as you like to kind of heal yourself up, but no long rest yet.
Okay.
So that means River, Robar, and Tawny Bear would all have 1 level of exhaustion.
Okay. I'm gonna find the place to take that.
Wait, what do you mean by like using your hit die to heal?
So you are able to use a certain number of hit dice during short rest to heal. I think you guys are still. Are you guys still level 1 or level 2? Level 1?
Level 2.
Level 2.
2.
So that means you have 2.
3, or are we level 3?
Well, perhaps we'll find out after this long rest occurs. We shall see. So only levels for Dunedain. Dunedain actually don't level. They just no. I'm just.
We're
joking.
born great.
Yeah, exactly. You're actually born level 20 and you work downwards.
Yeah, work down. Yeah.
You're on the end of things. No.
Yeah.
So your hit dice are the number that's the die that you use to determine your hit points.
I know that one, but like how to. Like,
So
what
you're
do you
gonna
mean,
well.
if we have any left? Like
Well,
that's
I don't
what
know if you. I don't know if you used any in short rests before this point. I'm not sure if you had or not. If not, then you can use those now. So you would have a total of 2 that you could use in your case, Inga, and you would roll both of them, and you'd add your Constitution bonus to each one. So your con bonus would be added to each one, and that's the total number of hit points you have left if you're using both.
Is that a 5e thing?
Yes, it's a well, yeah, but I mean, there's been 4E had a version of this too, but yes.
Well, I didn't play 4. So.
Ah, okay.
I'm
Good, you weren't missing anything. No.
I'm going
Yeah,
to-
so I've heard.
It wasn't
am
bad.
going
It just
to roll
wasn't
these
D&D.
dice.
It was just tactical map game. Anyway,
Let's not get into that here.
Yeah, no, I know.
but yeah, like so.
No, let's
basically-
do it. Let's have this.
let's get into it right now. No, I think Will basically agrees with me. There are some good moments in it, but like 5e is just so much better. It's so much better. Yeah.
On the character sheet where it says the word hit dice, you can just
Yeah.
click that and
Okay.
it'll roll and account for all the bonuses and everything for you.
Oh, great.
Where does it?
Lovely. All right, so that's
I don't
8.
see it.
It's
no,
right
there.
above your weapons would be and stuff.
Okay, so that was one of yours, and you can roll, as I said, Amal. You can use a second if you wanted. That brings you up to 10, so you can use another or not as you like.
Oh, great. Awesome. I
And
thought-
that
So
second
wait,
one will be the last
Do
one.
these
though,
like
you have.
reset after a time, or how does that work?
They will reset when you do a long rest, which, as we said, we haven't done yet.
Oh, okay, then I'm gonna use.
Although I have a suspicion that what you might do during your fellowship phase might involve opening up another sanctuary. I'm just taking a guess. You might want to have most of the time when people figure out, they're like, wait, I can't take a long rest. They're like, I want every sanctuary open ever. It's like video game, open up every fast travel place of all time. Okay. So Inga has got a total of okay. So you got 13 out of 20 now. Okay. Wow, Tawny with the max. Wapow.
I don't have any hit dice, I don't think. I don't know when I spent them, but I have
I'm
myself.
pretty
down
sure I
as
do remember that you spent them somewhere too.
Yeah,
All right, so unfortunately, Robar,
I'm on 1.
you're like, God. But you do get the level of exhaustion. I'm actually going to give you a couple, Robar, because you actually are going to be, just from normal resting, you would get a couple of hit points. So I'm going to give you 3 total. So you're up to
Nice.
3, which is not great, but it's better than 1.
I'll take
okay.
it.
So wait, so when we like the hit dice are diminishable?
Correct.
So
So you have a total, like a pool, essentially, of hit
Gotcha.
dice. So when you use both of those hit dice, that pool is used up until you take a long rest, and then you get the hit dice back to
see.
use again. And you can use those hit dice during a short rest, but you get them back during a long rest. Essentially, that's the way to think of it.
You have a number of hit dice equal to whatever your level is.
Right. And right
Right.
now, that's 2.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so I've used one and I could use a second one.
correct. Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
Great. Do
I mean,
wanna-
you're at 1/3 down, so I mean, it might not be a bad idea. Like,
Yeah, I think I will do that.
All right, there you go. So you are back to full. Okay, so just to double check, Inga's got 13 out of 20 now, I believe. Is that right, Inga? And no exhaustion. The river is 15 out of 15.
Wait a second. Oh, no, never mind.
Okay.
Go on.
The river is 15 out of 15 with 1 level of exhaustion. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay. We're going to say that Stone, as far as hit dice are concerned, go ahead and roll 1 for him also. Roll a 8-sided die for Stone, please. Wow. Stone is like
Awesome! Stone!
the healing power of bones and jerky and
Way
you or
healthier
something.
than me.
Yeah. So Stone is feeling hale and hearty, relatively speaking. Robar's got 3 out of 20 with 1 level of exhaustion. Is that right? Okay. And then Tawny's got
That's
10 out of 12 and 1.
11 out of 12.
11 out of 12. All right.
Because the cake brought me up to 1.
Oh, that's right. Well, right. But then didn't you just roll? Oh, you got 10. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep. 100% right. Okay. 11 out of 12, 1 level. Good. Lovely. All right.
So Stone, I forget what his. Oh no, he's at full.
His
never
max
mind.
is 8, right? I think it's 8 out of 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you are back at Bjorn's house as this resting all takes place, of course, over the night. There is not an air of celebration yet. You notice, and probably this is because, quite frankly, I mean. They've just been through a great loss. Everybody is tired. Like there's not a sense of, yeah, it's more like, thank God, is the way that you feel about it at the moment. And as you get yourself ready, let me just make sure that I don't have, okay, yeah, I don't. going to move you guys back over to the chase map here. This is where you did the chase originally and put us back at Bjorn's house.
Is there so as they're resting overnight, one thing that River would want to do is see if there's any tidings of the Stonyford people who were at the bridge.
Okay. So you actually sort of consult with some of the people, but none of the people that you talk to that are there, the sort of Bjornings all look to be local Bjornings, basically, like Bjornings that are from that area. Thank you for the host, UFC. They are just sort of local Bjornings from that area, but you don't actually see anyone from Stonyford there. Either they're not coming or they haven't arrived yet, or they didn't make it. But you don't hear anything from them yet. But there are a number of Bjornings that have sort of gathered about. In fact, Tani, as you were sort of looking around, this is as many Bjornings as you can ever remember in one place since probably the Battle of the Five Armies. There's a lot here, and clearly more than just this immediate Bjorn's area. Like, the horses that he sent out must have gone to many places to sort of gather around. And so as the morning kind of dawns and gets ready, you can tell that everyone seems to be gathering together. Just give me a second here while I look at this thing. Good. Okay. So you can tell that they're sort of ready for this. And as the morning dawns, Bjorn himself actually comes to all of you who have been resting inside his home and says, "All right, the time has come. It's time for you to come to this boy's trial. And I want to tell you," and he looks down at you, Tani, in particular, and he says, "I respect all of what you've done for us, and I won't forget it. We'll talk more about that afterwards. But as far as this boy is concerned, my judgment must fall upon him and him alone. You may speak on his behalf or against him if you wish, but you must know that despite my appreciation for your help, I must decide based on what I think is the just thing to do, not simply based on what happened with these bandits. Is that clear?" Okay. And then he sort of pauses for a moment. Go ahead, Inga.
Will any of the people from Stonyford be there?
He says, "I don't know. Messengers have been sent to find them, but how many of them are left or whether they will come, I cannot say. Many Bjornings were lost, dealing with the bandits even at the bridge, including my guards there." And all of you have this moment where you remember the guards that you saw, the one guard that basically said, "I will stay behind anyway," and apparently he didn't make it. And they say, and Bjorn says, "If they come, they're welcome to watch, but I won't necessarily take what they have to say any more into account as anyone else. This is a complicated business. If it wasn't for what happened in Gloomy Fold, that boy would already be dead. But because of what he did with the bandits, well, the situation is complicated, damn it all." And you can tell, Tani, you know that Bjorn is not a fan of complicated. Like, he's sort of like,
River was going to ask.
Yeah.
What is the charge against him?
Murder. And then treason, running away from the murder.
All right.
Like, Inga looks like visibly angry with the whole situation.
Yep.
She's on edge.
Yep. And he kind of, he sort of nods at all of you, and then he looks at you, Robar, as the most injured. He says, "How are you doing there? Any better, Dunedain, this morning?"
Not much. I'm feeling a little less tired, but about as much dead as I was.
He says, "Good. Nothing wakes up a man but being this close to death, eh?" And he kind of claps you on the shoulder, and you're like, "Ow!"
Oh.
and then he looks at you, Tani, and he says, "What of you, Tani?" Okay. Oh, do you speak? Or sorry, just go ahead. Sorry, Tani.
Well enough.
And he nods and he says, "I can't tell you how to feel. I can only tell you how to survive. It's what we all do. It's what you need to do." And that, which is about as close as Bjorn ever gets to sort of How you doing, psychology?
Buck up, son.
Good job. No, he doesn't do that. I mean, you can actually, and you note that his voice is quieter and softer than normal, Tani. He's definitely, as I say, this is like, for Bjorn, this is like muting himself to an incredible degree already. But you can tell as you look at him, something about the rage and the fire that you felt yesterday, you see almost as if it's a flicker of it, just a moment in Bjorn's eyes. And then he kind of nods almost imperceptibly. Probably the others didn't notice it, but certainly you did. And then he turns and walks off. And the Bjornings, a lot of them sort of gather and are following him. So it's almost like Bjorn in front and a whole group. You don't see Oderic yet. But the question is, they're all clearly going to this trial. So I'm assuming that you're following along behind them. Is that true, all of you?
I think
It
so.
says, can I walk better at this point?
Yes, you can walk a little better. Now, you're not like, yes, I can stride, but you're definitely not limping as badly, yeah.
Okay.
Like previously, Inga has offered Robar to like put his gear on the Liman as well, so that's like he
Okay.
doesn't have to carry all that stuff.
Liliman, I should have mentioned, Inga, that Liliman was enormously happy when you returned and was just like, kind of galloping around you in little circles, like repeatedly, and then like bonking into you several times, like accidentally, and then that type of thing. And Stone is very happy to see Liliman too. Stone, which is still limping badly and is definitely subdued. But Liliman, you can kind of see, kind of nuzzles, and Stone seems a little bit more animated. He's a little more animated this morning than he was yesterday, but this was definitely a grievous hurt river. It was a close thing. Okay, so all of you follow out. There is a whole really river, if you'll pardon the pun for a minute, of people that follow Bjorn up to the Carrack. Now, the Carrack I want to show everybody is across the way, and it's actually right about here, let's say. And the Carrack is actually standing essentially on a stone in the middle of this river, and it kind of lifts above sort of the rest of the surrounding landscape. There is a path that kind of winds around, not steps, but a path. And as the Bjornings all mounted, it's very large on the top, so there's a lot of people that can go up to it. Although you notice that many of the Bjornings are actually sort of lining the river on either side and are kind of looking up that way, because it would not be able to hold all of them, but it can hold, a number of them. And you are allowed by several of what looks like probably Bjorning guards, I guess, as they're sort of all going up to the top of it. So it is still early in the morning, so early here in the dawn that just the faintest light of dawn has begun to appear. And so there's just enough light to basically see as you go to the top of this Carrack. And as you get up there, all of you are sort of struck, and Tani, especially you are, because, well, you tell me, Tani, have you ever been on top of the Carrack before?
I could have sworn we came over here.
You did, but not onto it. You didn't go onto the Carrack. You passed it.
Then no, I don't believe he would have been.
Okay. But you definitely passed it, yes. But you did not go up on top of it.
He's seen it many times.
Yes, oh yeah. So, but going up on top of it, Tani, you are struck with this palpable sense of awe, because as you look out, you can see far in the west just the faint outline of the mountains, maybe just a little bit of glimmer from perhaps snow. Again, you can barely see because it is still late at night and so forth, and early in the morning, I mean. So you could barely see it, but you can see just a little bit of the glimmer. And to the eastern side, where the light is just beginning to rise, you can see the sort of the Bjornings lands where you grew up, where you were raised, where you sometimes fought, where people died that you knew, kind of laid out before you below. And the river, of course, not the river, but the actual river that passes by the Carrack on either side. And so as you are sort of standing on top of this thing, looking out at it, you're struck with this palpable sense of awe. The Liliman and Stone are both allowed up on top, but they're basically, the impression that you get is like, they better not do anything wrong. But neither Stone nor Liliman seem inclined. Stone because he's still hurt, and Liliman because Liliman seems sort of awed by all of it as well. So they're kind of standing there. And in fact, let me see if I can quickly grab a picture as I hear a question from Inga. Yes.
the Carrack, is that the rock like in the Hobbit where like the eagles put down like the gang?
That's it. Yep.
Ah, okay.
That is the same rock. And in fact, there's a moment where they actually ask him about the Carrack, and he says, he says he calls it the Carrack, and Bilbo says, why does he call it the Carrack? He said, it's called the Carrack because that's what he calls it. Like, it basically just like this big thing about like, I don't know, because he calls it a Carrack. All right, they have a picture.
When I first read The Hobbit, I was 7 years old, and I thought that it was like some typo for carrot, because I didn't know what a carrot was. And I was just imagining like this bright orange rock.
The Carrot. I don't know why he calls it. He calls it the
same
Carrot
name
because
as
that's
the
what he
German
calls it.
translation.
What he calls it. I know.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, I'm going to actually show a picture here for folks so you can actually see what it looks like. So I've just put this up. This is a picture of it, and there's another picture that's in the adventure itself, but I happen to really like this one. So it's on OBS if the players want to see. They can look at my stream. So you'll be able to see what that looks like.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. So, okay. So,
Oh, it has the same name in German.
Oh, does it really? Oh, cool.
I'm just an idiot.
So, okay. So the people are gathered around, and so Bjorn is there sitting on top of this this rock that is on top of the Carrack. And as you are all settled in, you still don't see Oderic, and then you hear this kind of murmur spread through the crowd, and then you see appearing up on this path Oderic, who is shackled. He has his hands bound together, and there are two Bjornings with basically with weapons standing to either side with their hands on his shoulder. He looks thoroughly defeated isn't the way I would put it, but just sort of
Crestfallen.
Yeah, crestfallen is a good way to describe it. He's just there and sort of waiting to see what happens. And as the trial begins, of course, you folks don't need to introduce yourselves because everybody knows. You come up, you sort of are standing there, and you are waiting, and you see as Oderic came up there with the two soldiers, you now look around, and you see several people pushing their way to the front. And all of you notice that it is a couple of people from Stonyford. Specifically, you see Ava from Stonyford, who is the leader, you may remember. And then you also see the old, strange Helmgut, who was the one who's kind of murmuring and talking to himself.
No.
Listen to what's underneath.
No, wait a minute. Maybe I'm wrong about Helmgut. Am I wrong? Is it Rathfin?
Helmgut was the dead. The
Not
dead
Helmgut,
one.
damn it.
You mean... Wait. Yeah. Grey Hobo. Heartwolf.
Yeah, Heartwolf, that's the guy. Grey Hobo. Oh my God, Heartwolf, yes. Not Helmgut, sorry, Heartwolf. And then you also see, you don't see yet Brunhild, but you do see Ava and Heartwolf. And Bjorn is standing there, and Bjorn is sitting on the rock, and there is just a moment of silence that settles in, and then Bjorn looks around and says, "Who will speak against the prisoner?" And there is a moment of silence, and then Ava steps forward and says, "I will speak the case for him. I don't wish him ill, but facts are facts." And behind him, Heartwolf is kind of just, truths and fictions, truths and lies, and fictions, truths. Just kind of hovering behind her. And the crowd sort of murmurs a bit and then settles. And Ava stands forward and she says, "There are several things that we know. It is that one man was killed, Rathvik, a person who was under the protection of our village, was one of our residents there. He was killed, and this one," and she points to Oderic, "was found over his body. Then he ran. He left, something we are never permitted to do. And when he was finally found and caught, he was then brought up by Merovich, your right hand," and she looks at Bjorn's, "your own right-hand man, the one who was supposed to enforce your justice." And Bjorn growls quietly and says, "I do not need explain to me my justice. Stick to the facts." And she nods, sort of chastened for a minute, and says, "He then escaped and ended up coming back to our village to speak to one of ours before leaving and falling in with these bandits. the bandits who almost destroyed all of us here. And she sort of looks around at all of the people gathered. There's no like, yeah, but there's sort of a general murmuring of assent, perhaps. And she says, he was always a troublesome child, Odoric was. He was an outsider, brought in. Here was Rathvik, who brought him into his home, tried to raise him as his own, and here was the price that he paid. And Helmgut is still, fictions and truths.
No.
Go ahead, what are you saying? River?
No, sorry. You said that Rathvik was the one who brought him into his home, but Rathvik was Brunhild's husband, right?
Yeah.
Helmgut,
Sorry.
yeah, god damn it.
Players
Helmgut.
are paying
Sorry,
better
Helmgut.
attention to the NPC names
Yeah,
than you do.
Helmgut. Listen, I got 80 million names in my head. All right, Helmgut. So there's and she brought him into his home, and look what happened. He was rewarded with murder. And of course, and she kind of drops her head a little bit, and Helmgut died of grief for what his son had done. And Odoric kind of, for a moment, he lifts his head and kind of sort of his eyes, you can't tell if he's just reacting to hearing about the death or if he's reacting to claiming that somehow it was his responsibility or something, but he somehow is troubled by this. And then he lowers his head again and says nothing, and Ava responds with, I don't wish any more suffering to come to any of you. Perhaps we weren't always the best people that we could have been, but at least I tried, and some of us tried to welcome Odoric in. He repaid us with murder and flight. And that can't be allowed to stand by you or by your law. She looks back at Bjorn, although this time you notice she doesn't actually look him in the eye. She's kind of, sort of, because of the last time. And she says, it is clear the law requires someone to be punished for acts that he has done. And Odoric has done them. And there's a moment of silence, and then Bjorn sort of says, all right, you've spoken your piece. And Avis nods and steps back. Right next to her, of course, Heartwolf is still, bowing and kind of muttering to himself. And then he says, who will speak for this boy? And there's a moment of silence and no one says anything.
Inga steps up.
Okay. And then, so Inga and the River both raise their hands, but Inga steps forward first if the River allows it.
I will speak for him.
The River throws Inga off. No, okay. All right.
No, I will speak for him.
River looks hesitant, but just lets Inga do her thing and looks ready to kind of back her up further.
Okay.
Like before Inga starts, she lets her wander through the people to see if she can spot Brunhild. Is she?
Not yet.
Can she see her anywhere?
You don't see her yet, no.
God damn it. Also, like previously, while Eva was talking, like Inga was like constantly looking at her, trying like with a look that like basically, if looks could kill, that was what was.
Yeah,
going
I
on.
should say, by the way, Inga, that it was very clear that Ava was not happy. I mean, like, she was not enjoying any of this. Like, this was not someone who was like, haha, I mean, she just seemed very grimly like, this is my job. And so, for what that's worth.
When we found Odoric in Valta's camp, it was pretty clear that he was a prisoner himself. Like, he was not there because he wanted to be there. If at anything, he had to go there because because he absolutely had to. He had no other choice. He was wounded, and he was definitely a prisoner. And he clearly has shown that he still was with us, with all of you, when he led Valta and his men into the gloomy fold for the ambush. Because if he wouldn't have had succeeded with that, then things would have been a lot worse.
And there's a moment you hear, there's a little bit of sort of mumbling, like kind of among the crowd, sort of kind of not necessarily assent, but sort of just sort of like thinking, kind of processing what it is that you've said, Inga. And then Bjorn says, "This may be true, but how do we know that Odoric didn't do this under compulsion? Perhaps he was pushed into these things, and therefore he did not really sacrifice himself. He simply did what he was forced to do. Can we trust in this boy's bravery or not?"
I trust him.
I trust him.
And so Bjorn's eyes look over both of you, and he says, "To you, the river, I will speak in a moment. Inga." He kind of lifts his head. "You are a dwarf. I have known dwarves in my day. Some honorable, many not so." This is classic tact from Bjorn, by the way. And Bjorn says, "But one thing that is clear is that very rarely have dwarves spoken for someone that is not one of their own. I want you to tell me why you speak for him. He is neither a dwarf, nor the Bjornings associated very much with your kind. Why speak for someone who is not one of your own race?"
Because I spoke to his foster sister, and the things she told me made me believe that he is a good and honest man, if he can be.
And Ava steps forward for a minute and says, "Wait, Brunhild? But it was Brunhild's husband that Oderic killed."
"I," says River all of a sudden, and stepping forward and quite furious, but trying to keep a leash on it. "Yeah, and you would put Oderic on trial for murder, but would you put one on trial for beating a spouse or for behaving dishonorably within his marriage?"
And there's a big sort of move of conversation at that point. And Bjorn sort of doesn't respond initially, and Ava says, What do you mean?" And Bjorn says, "That is an excellent question. Are you suggesting that someone was hurt?"
Rathwick was a terrible husband from everything we've heard.
It's difficult to stand here and speak for one who isn't here to speak for herself, but as it touches on Oderic, it feels necessary. Rathwick was indeed a terrible husband, and I think, I'm certain that he betrayed the sorts of vows that one ought to make to one's partner, and that he did in fact harm her in ways that were difficult to speak of, it seems, in a small place where everyone's business belongs to everyone else.
You see that Ava sort of is like, what, and reacting, and there's a couple of others now that you can see that appear to be residents of Stonyford who have kind of pushed their way through, and you can kind of see they're all kind of looking at each other. There's sort of a general kind of glancing, and Bjorn says, "This is very troubling. What do you know of this, Ava?" And Ava says, I imagine that it's true that there could have been some problems with them, but we were never told. There was never information given." And so Bjorn looks over and notices that Tani is kind of...
No, Tawny is not doing that. Tren is trying to...
Oh, sorry. What's up, Tren?
One thing is that while this is going on, Tawny's going to slowly shuffle up behind Hardwolf and get right up to his ear and just kind of whisper and say, "When we first stepped into that village, you told us to listen to things underneath, the deeper meanings. That tells me that you have eyes to see truths that other people choose to be blind to. If you still have tongue to speak the breath of truth, do it now."
So there's a moment's pause, and so River, there's this back and forth thing that I just mentioned. Ava says this, and then Heartwolf, for a moment, his voice clears, and he says, "You must listen. You must all of you listen." And there's a deadly silence, and the Stonyford people look thunderstruck, like what the, because this is. Heartwolf has not spoken, in quotes, normally for apparently a very long time. So he just, and there's just the moment of everyone, and Ava sort of stares at him, and he looks around and he says, "I know she is here." And then there's a moment, and then, "You're here, Trusen." And then he goes back to his truths and visions thing. And there's a moment's pause, and Bjorn says, Who is here?" And then pushing through the crowd and lifting up a cloak is what looks like Brunhild. Her face is streaked with tears. She looks as if she may never have stopped crying since you left. She looks, her eyes are puffy, her face is red. And as she sees her, Odoric kind of looks, and Odoric, for the first time, who has just been standing here, when he lifted up his head to see this, he almost stumbles forward, like just, and the guards have to kind of catch him by the shoulder. And Brunhild sort of looks at him, and she has this incredible mixture of grief, of sadness, and of a deep, deep connection to the person that she's looking at, Odoric. And she kind of looks up at all of you and says, and nods and says, "I am ready to be questioned. You can question me." And Odoric says, no, she has nothing to say about any of this. And you can see he's sort of half crying, and Bjorn says, "Be silent."
Inge steps down to Brunhild and stands next to her, and looks up to her and giving her a reassuring nod.
River does the same.
Okay.
Tawny steps up behind and just sort of gently pats her on the shoulder to let her know he's there.
Robar, are you doing anything at this point? Other than feeling upset, hurt?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Robar is, also close to death, which probably leaves him lower energy than he normally is, but he watches in silence. He does not like taking this guy's side, but he keeps his silence respectfully because of Inga.
Okay.
And the ruling. Yeah.
Okay. So we note all of that, and so Odoric has to be sort of held back, and Brunhild looks up and she just gives a tight shake of her head, and Odoric falls silent, but you can see that he is deeply anguished, and Bjorn kind of looks at her fiercely, and then says to the party, "Then she must be questioned. Which of you will do it?"
Questioned?
She must just tell us what she knows. But I want one of you to be the one asking her the questions. If you claim there's more to this boy's story, I want you to be the key to this lock.
Inge looks at River are you gonna do it or am I gonna do it?
River says, I'll do it. And looks to... What does Brunhild look like right now?
Devastated. Tears just streaking her face. Eyes puffy and red. I hope that no one in chat or the players has ever experienced this, but I suspect you have. There comes a stage where you've cried for so long and felt so much grief that you kind of just go to the other side of it, and it just feels like pain, like it just hurts. That is what it looks like to you.
Oh,
yeah.
River swallows a lump in her own throat and tries to stand tall and to let her voice carry. She says, What is your name?
Brunhild.
Brunhild, were you married to Rathvik?
Inge kind of offers her hand to hold while she does that.
And she grips it tightly and says, "Yes."
Did Rathvik ever raise a hand to you?
And she lifts up her face and looks around, and there's a moment where all of you have this profound sense of vulnerability. There's a moment where she's just exposed, as if she were naked in a room being stared at by the unknowing. And she looks around at all of you and then says, "Yes, more than once."
And were you there the night that he died?
Yes.
And was Oderic there?
Yes.
Did Oderic kill him?
And Oderic kind of says, I did! I did! And Brunhild sort of looks at him very sadly, and then she shakes her head. No, you didn't. You know who did this. And it wasn't you.
And that's all the questions I have. I think that we've established that Oderic did not in fact kill Rathvik, and the charge for which he was initially held was untrue.
And so again, this creates something of a sensation, like everyone is sort of talking, arguing for a moment. And then there is a moment where they stop, and they're just sort of, they're all talking to each other, and then Bjorn holds up one great hand and says, This is powerful, but it is as of yet uncorroborated. All we have is Brunhild's word, and she may be speaking to save him. And Oderic, who is just still like, he's sort of quieted down, but he's just, you could see he's kind of angrily kind of jerking against the guards every so often, and then Heartwolf says, It is true. It's true. And I saw it myself. It's true. True. And Ava, again, Stonyford people are just staggered. And
Tawny's just slowly nodding.
Yeah. Yep. And you get the sense, Tawny, that this is not out of, he doesn't seem to be doing this out of fear. This is out of a deep reserve of something. And he says, there was time when I saw clearly, and moments when I still do. And I saw it myself. Ava. And Ava just sort of was struck dumb. And then Heartwolf sort of steps forward and looks at Brunhild and says, and I am sorry. The loss in angels and loss. And kind of staggers back. And Ava just sort of doesn't even know what to do. She kind of puts a hand on his shoulder. She seems overcome with emotion. There's a lot of emotion at the moment that everyone feels. And so all of that happens, and then Bjorn says, I see. Okay, I need a couple of rolls. First of all, I need, let's see. I'm going to need an insight check from the river and from Inga. Tawny, I need a persuasion check from you.
14.
Okay.
11.
Okay.
19.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna add +1. Okay. All right. And then the last one was, I believe, Inga, you had made the insight. You had talked about the stuff that you did with the bandits. Okay, all right. So, all right, so you guys do that. That's going to be +2. Okay. So Bjorn says, even if I decide to do something different, we will need to decide what must be done with Brunhild. He says, but we'll consider that in a moment. And, okay. Now what I'm going to need is for one of you is going to be making essentially a final closing argument. This is going to be a traditions check. So this is almost like a modified audiences, but because of your successes during the other ones, you'll be adding +3 to this roll. So you'll be making an intelligence check, and then you're going to be rolling a +3.
So River is going to look at Inga and say, Inga, can I do this?
I guess.
All right. Is everyone all right with that?
Quick
Okay.
note that you're, by the way, getting the benefit in part of Tawny's actions and of Inga's actions. I think that's probably clear, but I wanted to be clear that all
Yeah.
of you guys, had an impact there with that. Okay.
So to one point of clarity, I'd actually thought that, like, Oderic didn't try to run at first, that he just gave himself up to be taken when Rathvik's murder happened.
More or less. He left the area, but he didn't run, like, he didn't flee very far. Like, he was, like, right outside the outskirts of the town, basically. So that was kind of a stretch on her part, maybe. I mean,
Okay.
she wasn't trying to lie to be bad, but it's just kind of like, all right, that's not really what happened, though, type of thing. Later on, though, when he left after Marovich, that was definitely fleeing. I mean, for sure.
Right.
Well, he was being attacked or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, hey, listen.
Okay. Let me know when the closing arguments thing needs to start.
Yeah, well, Bjorn basically says, and more or less he tells you, very well. One of you then will speak. Summarize this for me. Oderic, whether he's responsible or not. Should he be freed for his actions or not? And he kind of waits, and the crowd hushes, by the way, the river as you step forward.
We believe that Oderic should be freed because all the actions that have come as a consequence of a lie have still ultimately shown him to be noble of spirit and caring for those he loves. And even when a moment came that he could have taken some kind of vengeance on those who wronged him, those who believed him to be a murderer when he wasn't, even then he chose not to throw his lot in with them, and instead to help curtail a battle that, terrible as it was, could have been much, much worse if it hadn't been for his actions. Oderic was innocent of the crime he was accused of, but chose to confess to it to protect someone else. And thereafter, everything that he's done has been to either protect those he loves or to protect his people that he does not know. He was called an outsider by the people who he lived with and who he was raised with. And that can do things to a person. That can make them feel like they're always on the outside when all they want is to belong. But it never soured in him to the point of vengeance. And instead, he chose every time to behave with honor, ultimately. I was honored to fight alongside him. And I hope that your justice bears that in mind.
Okay, make a traditions check for me. Also, before you do it, this is going to be at a total of +5. 3 plus stuff in the battle and other things I won't get into, +5. And now, I will say that I have now officially reset the inspiration, so everything is now current. So if people wanted to inspire this relatively important check, now might be a good time to do it. If anyone has inspiration that is sitting in chat, I'm pretty sure some of us do. Some of you do. So, but there is inspiration that is available to you.
That is +5 on top of, because I believe you're proficient in traditions, are you not?
Yep.
Yeah, this is +5 regardless of whatever else happens. So,
So is it +5 on top of her
Yep.
proficiency? Okay.
Yep. It's a traditions check. Yeah, the +5 is like before anything else, like, and then you can add whatever else comes to it. Okay, so you guys can see there who has it. So we got Dragon Spear in here with this. Technically, we have. Who else do we have that's here? I think. Oh, Nonstop already used his. That's why. All right, it's Dragon Spear or nobody that we've got based on people who are currently in chat. Dragon Spear, you throwing an inspiration this way or not? Oh, there is one from Nonstop. Nonstop does have one because he used one already. So Nonstop and Dragon Spear, this is what we got. It's up to you guys. We wait.
Very important.
Is it important?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty important.
It's fine.
It's pretty important. It's pretty important.
Fist clenching.
Yep. It is pretty important. Silence. This is like the secondary wait. It's the moment where you're like, you be inspiring the river, yeah. You inspiring Amal. Oh, there's Nonstop. Nonstop at Dragon Spear. Nonstop's like, wait, what? Me? Huh? Who called me? Hey. All right, you guys, one of the two of you, if you want. I mean, you guys don't have to.
Yeah,
it's totally not. I don't want to push you into doing anything.
No pressure.
Right, exactly.
I'm just going to roll.
There's the inspiration.
Yes.
All right, so Dragon Spear inspires the river.
Thank
Dragon
you.
Spear is one of the Bjornings, right? He's just like, you can do it.
Okay.
I just want you to know, good luck. We're all counting on you.
Jesus.
Oh, wait, but +5.
Worst roll.
Wow. The double with the double
it's
two.
It's 9, right?
But I don't think you added stuff, yeah. Well, it's
haven't
plus
added
proficiency. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see what we got.
I just did the straight roll.
Traditions, you did add +2, so you got to add the 5 on top of it.
Okay.
So we're talking 11.
Jesus.
All right, let's see.
That was such a heartfelt speech.
It was. It was.
The thing is, even if you had advantage, it would have been
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Okay. So he says,
Rick.
so Bjorn stops for a moment and, thinks, and he says, Odoric fought bravely, and he is to be commended for his care for his foster sister. He kind of looks over at Brunhild. Also, this situation seems to me to be too complex to make judgment about who did or did not kill that person, at least from Odoric's point of view. Nonetheless, Odoric is still guilty of a crime. He did leave when he should not have. Instead of facing judgment, he ran. Moreover, if Brunhild's story is true, he lied to protect her. Also a crime. And he kind of looks at Odoric and sort of looks at Brunhild again. He says, I understand his reasons. And sort of pauses and says, he will not be put to death or exiled. And there's a moment where the Stonyford people are like, he says, but he must face some punishment. And he says, he is condemned to pay a man's worth of gold to the village of Stonyford, or to serve in that village for life. And he sort of stares at Odoric. Odoric doesn't say anything. And then Bjorn looks at Brunhild. There is one way that this sentence may be commuted. And he says, if you will accept whatever punishment I mete out for you, then Odoric is free. And Brunhild kind of stares back at him, and Odoric says, you can't do that! I'll take whatever punishment comes to me. I deserve to... And he sort of hears you like... And Brunhild looks back and says, looks back at Bjorn and then looks back at you. I've been waiting for that kind of moment since this happened. Rathvik was a cruel man, but he did not deserve death. Even from me. And she kind of sort of swallows this lump in her throat, you can tell, and Ava and Heartwolf just sort of seem... Ava just seems almost heartbroken now. He's like almost holding on to Heartwolf for support. And the rest of the, group around them are saying, the rest of the people are just sort of, there's a hushed silence. And then Bjorn says, very well. Brunhild's life will be spared, but she cannot remain in Stonyford. She must be exiled from this land. If she is found within its borders again, she will be put to death. However, and he looks at the four of you, if you will speak for her, I will allow you to escort her to a place of your choosing. If the woodmen will have her, the dwarves, or the realm of men, she may go there. I will provide her with provisions and with all that is needed for the journey. And
the woodmen will have her, absolutely.
And he says to Brunhild, I do not wish you ill, and what was done to you was wrong. But there must always be a price to pay for wrongs that you do as well. And Brunhild nods and says, It is just. And there's a moment where she looks back and at Odoric, and Odoric looks at her and then looks at Bjorn and says, she is exiled. And what of me? And Bjorn, without looking, and he's actually staring directly at Tawny Bear when he says this, says, you are free to go wherever you choose, including to the woodmen as well, if you wish.
Hooray!
So there's a moment, and everyone kind of, and
His shoulders slump like.
and then Bjorn says, this is the judgment. The trial is over. And as he says this, the sun just rises above the trees. There's a shaft of light that sort of covers over, and you can see Odoric, who's now been released by the two guards, and Brunhild sort of looking at each other. Not the end of the session, but scene. Okay.
Oh God, my heart!
Yeah.
I'm
So,
too old for this.
scene, not session yet. Back at Bjorn's house. The four of you back at Bjorn's house are sitting as Bjorn is talking to you. It is several days later.
Tawny is tending. The hell is your name? Robar.
Okay.
That's mine.
Yeah, I was going to say that you can actually give him, like, because there's obviously plenty of, like, the best honey,
Oh, yeah.
so you can make the cakes and give them to you. So I'd say Robar, at this point, your exhaustion is gone. You can be back to your normal hit points. In fact, everybody at this point can be back to normal.
Hooray! Take off that exhaustion.
And so Bjorn is speaking to you all and says, I do not know whether you've done the right thing in this business. I myself am somewhat troubled by allowing two people to, well, not escape exactly, but not to face the full weight of what judgment would have been to them. It's these damned complications. And he kind of shakes his head, and then he says, are you sure that you'll be answerable for their behavior, these two? And he says it to all four of you. Well, Tani, I guess you're still tending Robar, but you're like there, right? Like with him? Okay. So he says this to all four of you.
Yes.
They've both been victims of the circumstances, clearly.
They've also both suffered so much. I mean, we talk of punishment, but we don't take into consideration the things that they've already been living with, the punishment that they've been enduring for however long, either in a marriage or in the wild, or all of that factors in.
He nods and he says, you do speak wisdom. I am not accustomed to considering other circumstances, but it appears that if I am to be a leader of men, I must do so in my own way, but by taking into account, complexities. And you say, as if he said, like, orc flesh or something, like something really disgusting, like, and he's like,
River will say as well, even a battlefield isn't always one thing or another. And sometimes, looking straight at Bjorn and not at anyone else, sometimes someone strikes at you on the battlefield who isn't your enemy. And sometimes it is complicated even there.
And Tawny finishes and goes to the window.
Bjorn says, perhaps I will consider further. As for you, he says to Inga, he says, I am impressed. I had expected that there would be some who would speak up on behalf of this boy. I wasn't sure necessarily if you would be one of them. I've had to reassess my opinion of dwarves before. I see I must do so again. He kind of gazes at you.
She just like gazes back, like tries to look like intimidating, but like clearly she's
Since
flattered.
he's like just looking, yeah. Right. You're like, thanks. I mean, right.
Stop extrapolating from the singular and actually. Anyways, that's fine.
So.
Well, good. And she like turns away.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I don't know that Bjorn has a deep understanding of racial politics.
Yeah.
But for him, the plural of anecdote is data.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but he nods and he says, "In fact, all of you impressed me in a different way. The river. I appreciate your youthful enthusiasm, and you speak well, especially when you speak truthfully. I imagine that bards do speak truth sometimes when they're put to it. Of course, it helps that your dog cares about you as much as the others seem to." And at this point, Stone, who's much recovered, is sort of, pants and goes over and is sort of, licking Bjorn's hand. Bjorn seems to be far more gently with Stone than he's ever been with any of you, petting Stone's head. And of course, Inga, your horse speaks well. Now, Lilliman is being tended to outside in the best possible way. Like, horses, Bjornings, like, it's just like luxury spa treatment week for Lilliman, basically.
Gets like a pedicure and
Oh,
everything.
yeah. Like a hoof cure or whatever. He gets,
Pedicure.
yeah.
Oh, God.
He gets the...
Oh, God.
Is
Thank
there
you
a
for
hoof
that
cure?
image.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Well, it's, you don't put nail polish on it, but you do have to scrape out their hooves and stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what was not what I was thinking about when he said hoofy-cure, because that's a thing in My Little Pony. Where like, no, moving on. Thank you.
I was gonna say, listen, if you want Lilliman to be, hanging out with Twilight Sparkle and the rest, you don't know. Okay, so, and then he turns to you, Robar, and he says, "As for the Dunedain, my understanding has been you always work for society, but from the shadows. I didn't think you much liked people like Odoric, who try to, some would say, escape from their responsibility. Why not speak against him then?"
I can't say I did like Odoric very much, but my friend here, Inga, she does. And sometimes it's better to hold one's tongue.
He nods and he says, "I see. There is a kind of patience that I don't always understand about the Dunedain. I must also reconsider there, I see."
I think Odoric, in one way or another, sooner or later will get what he deserves.
And
Whatever that may be.
he nods and he says, "Indeed. If so, it will be interesting to see the nature of his punishment. And, for you, Tawny," and I assume you've just been standing, you said, by the window, like kind of looking outside. He says, "Tawny, I didn't hear what you said to the old man, but it had some effect on him. You don't have to tell me the details. But what were you appealing to? his anger, his shame, his grief.
Truth.
He nods, he says, "Ah. And what of your truth, Tani? Have you found more of it then?"
In some ways, I feel I've lost more than I've gained.
He nods and he says, "Perhaps. But I think it might be worth it to you to consider how you can regain those things." And he brings out, now you don't see this, well actually let me ask, are you looking away from him the whole time or do you glance over your shoulder? Okay.
I'm looking out the window.
Okay. So he brings up something and he out something from below his chair where he's been sitting talking to you in the hall, and he brings it out and then clops it on the ground. Now, Robar and Inga in the river, what you see is this incredibly strong-looking wooden staff, which has been shod anew with some kind of, looks like it might be some kind of metal, and that's the sound that like makes this sound that echoes throughout the hall. It looks incredibly strong and dangerous and powerful and, you know, all that kind of thing. But there is something which is inscribed in Bjorning runes along its surface. You can't see it, but Tani, you hear this clock. And the question is, you can turn around, or if you want, okay. So you see him holding this thing, and he says, "I don't plan for you to use this in battle, Tani Bear, but there may be times when it is necessary. Either way, this will be a strength to you, both in peace and war. And I would ask that you have it. I've had it made for you." And he holds it out, and it's this staff. Again, it looks like a replacement for your previous staff, but as I said, it has these runes on the surface. You would need to come a little closer to see it.
Yeah, walking over.
Okay.
To go over and look at it.
The sides of it have been inscribed with on it peace, healing, truth, in that order.
You can read it backwards and forwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's me saying that, not River.
Yes, I know. Hoot hoot, cooler. No, not totally backwards. Just the word.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was like, what? Truth, healing? Yeah, no. Peace, healing, truth.
Truth, healing, peace. You know, all
Yep.
those.
Yep. And he says, those three words, Tani, haven't applied to me, especially not the peace part. But they apply to you. And if you can keep those three in your heart and be willing to use them to strike against evil when needed, I think you could go very far for yourself, if you wanted to.
He takes it and kind of sets it down and wraps his fingers around it just to kind of get a feel of.
It feels.
Feel of it.
It feels almost made for you. It reminds you of the staff that you had before, but shaped and smoothed in such a way as if it feels almost a little bit like an extension of you. There's no, you can't tell, of course, if it's magical, but it sure as hell feels customized. And by the way, it's been worked on clearly for more than just a day or two.
And he just twists his hands around it. It's like there's still that lingering bit of rage, like he's just trying to wring it out of himself.
Yep.
A bit, and he looks down at Inga with a fairly stern look on his face. I know some of the things that you think about me. Some of them may well be true. The truth is one of the core, most important aspects to anyone's existence. And the truth is, I no longer wish to be a fighter. I lose myself to it. And my friends are in equal measures of danger as my enemies. If you would have me walk with you beyond this point, you need to not only know, but accept the fact that I am a healer, and I will not harm unless I have no other choice.
How much did Inga see of like Tony while the fight was going on?
Not a whole lot. Some, because you definitely saw when he was surrounded by all the guys that were attacking him. But you were also occupied worrying about Robar and like dealing with Valter, who was farther to the southwest. So I don't think you would have seen him lash out against the men, but you absolutely saw the grabbing of, Bjorn grabbing his hand and everything when he was coming to consciousness and whatever. You absolutely saw that.
The strike towards...
Yeah, the strike towards the river, yeah. I think I mentioned that everybody saw that.
Yeah. No, that's at the very end. So Inga has been like staring up at him, arms crossed, and replies, I don't know what happened in the Gloomy Fold with you, but we have traveled for quite a while together now, and I don't know what is going on with you in general, and I'm not sure I do want to know, but you are a grown person, and I want to believe that you know what you are doing. And I mean, I just need to know that, like, if like the worst comes to worst, that I and the others can rely on you.
His eyes kind of go up like, well, and he just sort of sits there, not quite answering, and just sort of staring off, like he's really trying to decide whether he can make a promise like that. And there is a long silence. Long enough that he really doesn't answer. He just kind of...
River speaks up into the silence, not actually to Tawny, to whom she hasn't actually spoken directly yet, to say, I, for one, would be happy to know that Tawny was there at the end of a battle to tend to our wounds and help us get back together. I don't feel it's fair to ask him to do that which is against his nature, when what is in his nature is fully as much a part of our fellowship as any of our own strengths.
What about you, Rovar? What do you think?
I think that in the last journey of ours, we've seen people who are fighters and those who aren't. And I think that we can all agree that both of those types of people have their own merits and are as equally valued in different scenarios. And I know that Tawny might not be a fighter, but I know that I trust him, and I can count the people that I trust on Well, I mean, there's 3 of you, and then the dog.
River does actually chuckle.
But not
So you
Lilliman.
could buy me.
Not Lilliman.
Except for that one. What the hell?
That horse. That horse.
You best not lose any fingers in battle there, Robar.
My pony of Sauron.
Ask him if he's good. He says nay.
He says, so you were right by me, Tani. And Inger, I think that there's enough of people like you and me in this world, and we probably need a few more people like Tani.
Well, I mean, I guess you both have a point, and I do trust you, and I guess, yes, sure. If you trust him, then that's good enough for me.
I guess my question is now, where do we go?
To sleep. To a bath.
And Bjorn actually says, before you do that, there were 2 people I thought you'd like to speak to. And he says some whinnying, neighing sound to one of the horses, which is, of course, always ever present in the hall. And the horse, and goes out and then sort of bumps out through the door. And
Tony is sort of muttering to himself, "Don't be Dendy, don't be Dendy, don't be Dendy."
Hi! No.
Oh, God.
Actually,
So
it's
good to see you, Holly. It's a pleasure to have you. No. It's not Dendy.
both
no.
of them, both twins.
Yeah, exactly. It's both the
Yeah.
God damn it. No. They
Couldn't stay get any worse.
and coming back in, you actually see it is Derek and Brunhild. They are outfitted as if for a journey. Both of them have traveling cloaks on. You can see, of course, their wounds have been tended to and so forth. And they are sort of, bags on, cloaks and everything. And they look happier, actually. And as they come up to you, sort of small smiles, Bjorn clears his throat. Well, I think I've already seen enough complexity for one day. And he stands and says, they have just 5 minutes, and then they need to be on their way. I've given word to all my people to see them safely through to Roscabel. River, you're welcome to attend them, but it's not necessary. They'll be there waiting or wherever they choose to go. They have my safe passage through these lands.
Let me just write a note quickly. And she'll write a note similar to the one that she wrote for that guy who they spared from the bandits that time. To be like, hey guys, here's 2 more. Except, full of loftier words.
Yeah, Fennis is the guy you're talking about. That was the
Fennis.
guy, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Anyways, she'll write a letter of introduction on the part of the 2 of them and very hastily, and say that she vouches for them.
Okay.
And then she'll, hand it to them and say, take this to Radagast the Brown, and I think that he'll ensure that your welcome at Roscabel is all that you could wish it to be.
And they nod and say thank you. And Bjorn says, I'll be tending to the horses. And sort of uncomfortably is just kind of like, ugh. And walks out and pats you on the shoulder as he walks out, Tawny, kind of, hand on your shoulder. And then walks out through the hall, and you're now left alone with Odoric and with Brunhild. And Odoric says, thank you. I know what I did was wrong, but I think now maybe it's a mistake I can recover from. It won't be easy, but I I think I can do it as long as we're together. And Brunhild sort of nods, and she says, I'm glad that you listened to me and to us. I don't think, well, Odoric said he didn't deserve to be saved. I don't think I did either, but I'm glad you did anyway.
River takes Brunhild's hand between hers and says, it grieved me to even begin to speak what you said to us in confidence. I'm only glad that you are now together and that you can move past this. This is what you deserve. A life together, taking care of each other.
And they nod. They sort of, and they both nod at you and smile. And Odoric looks over at you, Inga, and says, actually, wait, no, it doesn't do that first. She looks over at Robar and says, I know you don't trust me, but I promise I'll take care of her. She'll take care of me, and we won't get into trouble again.
Good. If you do, we'll find you.
he nods.
You're like,
River looks at him like
that doesn't help both. Robot side. Like,
best of luck, and we'll always be watching.
Yeah. It's a big brother talk, like, you know, like, really happy for you two, but if you ever hurt her, I will kill you.
I will kill you at where you stand. Yeah. They look at they both look at you, Tawny, and Brunhild sort of steps forward and puts her hand on your arm and says, "Thank you for helping us." And Odoric says, "And for helping me twice. I didn't know what was going to happen to me until all of you came to the camp. And when you were there with me in the tent and we were talking, that was the first time I had felt hope for many, many weeks. I'll try to live up to that hope if I can. It's not easy sometimes to pretend to be something you're not. I have to try to learn to be who I really am, I guess."
Promise me, you two, that you will try to be happy. Not everybody is so lucky to get a second chance at life and all this, whatever this is. And just learn from your mistakes. And I hope that the people back home, where you are from, also will learn their lesson, hopefully.
And they look back at you, Inga, and Odoric bends down and says, "I mean, we were both sort of saving the last of this for you." And then both of them sort of simultaneously hug you, Inga, and you're kind of like, "What?" And so there's this one moment where you're just like, and you're sort of like, oh, like crushed for a second between two people that are trying to hug you, and then they sort of pull back, and Brunhild kind of smiles at you shyly, and Odoric says, "I won't ever forget you, Inga. Ever. You
Inga
most of all."
Like blushing red, and it's like
Right. All right,
Yes.
shut up then. Whatever. I have allergies and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cutting onions in here.
And they stand and they say, Odoric says, "We need to be on our way to Roskabel, but we'll try to leave word where we are. If you ever find us, wherever we are, you'll always be welcome in our home. The home we're going to build together." And they put sort of an arm around each other, and they nod at you, and then they turn and they exit. And there is
Wait. Before they exit,
Okay,
like
before
while
they
they are
exit, yes.
exiting. Like Inga go, "I better be seeing a bunch of children next time we see you."
There better be kids, and okay. And they sort of smile back at you.
I don't even know if that's their relationship.
Right, exactly. They smile back at you. And, yeah, Odoric just kind of smiles and sort of looks at you and says, and
Bad,
shrugs.
yeah.
Why would you say that?
Odoric shrugs and and then leaves, leaving it completely uncertain as to what actually will occur, one way or the other. And they depart. And there's a moment where, as you are assuming that you go to the door or the window, Tani's already there, but assuming you all go to the door / window to look, they are continuing to move over. You see that they get onto 2 horses which are laden with bags. You see Bjorn say something to them gruffly, and then you see the 2 horses head off at a trot out the doors of Bjorn's house. And Bjorn sort of looks at him with his hands on his hips, and then he shakes his head slowly and turns around, and just you actually sort of see his lips move, and you hear him muttering, not exactly under his breath, complications, damn it all, and just walks off.
Derek and Bruno's Facebook status is, it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
And with that, we bring episode 3 to a close. I am happy to let the party know, by the way, that they have leveled to level 3.
Ding,
So
ding,
you've gone up to
ding.
level 3. And also, because we do have, exactly, we have about 15 minutes, and that's good because we have a fellowship phase that we have to resolve before episode 4. And then I want to talk about the session that we just had, but I want to do the fellowship phase first. So I just want to give the party a reminder and chat a reminder about the way that fellowships can work. So fellowship phases you've seen how a fellowship can work with these people, but how a fellowship phase can work. So there are several things that you can do. First of all, there is rest and recovery. So at the beginning of the fellowship phase, you get all of your hit dice back. You already had your hit points back, but you get all of your hit dice back. You remove all exhaustion. And you remove all of your conditions that you have in this particular case. So all of you are basically back to normal sort of situation. Now you have a couple of things that you have to consider about what you're going to do during a fellowship phase. Now it is right now, you may remember, very late spring, early summer, basically late spring, like May-ish, essentially, just close to where we are right now in real life. And so you will have an opportunity to take several travels and do certain things. But I want to tell you what some things that you could do. Do any of you have level of corruption? I don't think any of you has any corruption yet, right? Okay. So you don't have to worry necessarily about corruption. If you had something like being poisoned or blinded or something like that, you could actually use a fellowship phase to recover from that, but you guys don't have that, so you don't have to worry about that. You do have training, so you have a chance to be able to, for example, the river actually, in the first fellowship phase, trained Stone to be able to attack. You could further train Stone to do some more complicated stuff if you want, River, so we'll talk about that as a possibility. You could also, if you wish, choose something fundamental, a new trait. You could create a new sort of distinctive feature about yourself if you wish. You could, do a lot of, basically this is sort of soul searching, so it allows you to provide a new trait if you wish. There's no check involved with that. That's just something you guys tell me if you want to do that, then that's what you do during this time. You could also, if you wish, make a patron. Now, you've got 2 things, and each of you could do one of these different things if you wish. First of all, you may, if you wish at this point, open a sanctuary at the last homely house. Bjorn will absolutely grant that to you, but you are going to have to basically tell him, okay, we'd like to do this. Sanctuaries are nice, obviously. But you could also make, if you wish, you could attempt to make Bjorn a patron. Now, let me explain the way that patronage works here, because having a patron can be pretty good. So, in a patronage thing, as I extend, because I didn't actually just close the book that I needed to describe this at all. That was totally
I'm trying
not what
to
happened.
find the PDF to open it so I can read along and stuff.
If not, I'll try to link it to you again.
Yeah,
But there we go. No, 202. Yeah, we'll say no for now. Exactly around. Yeah. Okay. So, if you are trying to patron, so usually a renowned or powerful personality, certainly Bjorn qualifies, who may from time to time offer a company a purpose to go adventuring, providing support of various kinds and counsel, blah, 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 blah. You can meet a patron, and patrons are often major characters that are in Middle-earth. And in particular, all be happy to know that I am giving you this information thanks to the Rovanian Region Guide from our sponsor Cubicle 7, which actually specifically talks about what happens if Bjorn is available to be a patron. Well, Bjorn is available to be a patron because pretty obviously you just did some pretty awesome stuff for him. So, let me tell you what he can do. Just give me a second. 21, blah, blah, blah. Yes, Bjorn as a patron. Right. Okay. Bjorn is a little bit. Heroes spend at least one phase directly assisting him. Yes, that's done. Okay. And that's a mission of sorts. Okay. Under the circumstances, what Bjorn is going to be able to do as your patron is he will be able to provide you advice and counsel. This is advice and counsel which would allow you to actually gain advantage in a certain area or location. So if you went to him and you were like, assuming that he knows about the area. So if you were like, okay, I'm going into Mirkwood east of here, like, what do I need to remember? He can be like, okay, watch out for this river, be careful of this stream, check out this following tree or whatever. And so basically what it will mean is that you'll be able to do anything you're dealing with natural features of that environment while you're in that area. You will gain advantage on checks done for that. So that's a pretty significant benefit if you go to him to basically consult with him. Also, he can provide you certain benefits. Tani, in your case, because of the whole twice-baked honey cake thing, when you go and talk to him, your normal healing items, the normal healing equipment that you'd use, the cakes that you have and all that kind of stuff, get the benefit of adding an additional hit point if you have acquired your raw material from him. So if you basically bake the cakes there, if you get the honey from him there or whatever, you can make, as long as you're there, you can make enough cakes that you're going to take with you. But even when you leave, he'll give you a couple of jars of honey, enough to be able to make, let's say, 2 parties worth, so 8 total cakes, which have this benefit of giving you an additional hit point when you eat them, in addition to whatever you would get. So that's something which he can provide. And then lastly, if you were ever in deep trouble and being pursued by Nazgul, I mean, whatever, like if you were pursued by terrible things and you could get to his house, Bjorn would attempt to defend you as best he could. Now, that's not going to help you when you're at the Lonely Mountain, or, you know, like if you're someplace else, like if you're in Gundabad, he's not going to come running up and helping you out as a bear. But I'm letting you know that if you are near the area and can try to divert to him if you needed to, you could do that. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because at this point forward, the adventures you have will all have their own mini arcs, but you also now need to be thinking about the map in general. So if you have an adventure that takes you nearby Bjorn's house or something like that, you now have it so that you could go to him if you were in deadly, danger. You'd need to figure out how much time it would take out of your time, and if you were exhausted, you might not reach it, and whatever. But the point is that's a benefit that would be available to you if he becomes your patron. So you have the possibility of making him a patron. You have the possibility of opening his place as a sanctuary. And then the last thing that I want to mention is the last 2 things. One, you could research lore, so you could gather more information. You could, for example, try to gather information on that mummified head that you found, Inga. That's something which you could possibly do during a fellowship. And the last thing is about gaining a title, receiving a title. Robar, we did a little bit with this, I think, in our last fellowship phase, where you actually went off to discover more information. That still awaits you as something which you'll want to do. And without spoiling anything, I will tell you that stuff will come into play in the future. However, you could also go back immediately if you wanted to, but I don't want you to think that if you don't go back, you're going to lose your chance. That's not the case.
Okay.
Like, stuff will happen with it, but you can also push it if you wanted to be like, I want to go back and check out what's happening now.
Okay.
So basically, those are the things that are available to you, and I'm sorry for going through them all, but I wanted you to have a sense of what was there. So what do you folks think? You could talk as a group, by the way, and then tell me independently now what you think you'd like to do for your fellowship phase.
So, to be clear, these are all mutually exclusive things, right?
Correct. Only one of you can... I mean, obviously, if you make Bjorn a patron, he'll become all of your patrons, but one of you would have to do that. One of you would...
Patron is separate from the homely house.
Correct. That's right. Yep. So if you wanted to both have him as a patron and have a sanctuary, you'd have to have 2 of you doing that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like 1 person sanctuary, 1 person patron. Yeah.
Right. And then does that work for the other things too? Like 1 person could research lore and 1 person could. Okay.
That's it. Yep.
And those are and like me training stone is also.
That's also a thing.
It's also
That
a
would be
thing.
his own thing, yep. Because each of these takes some months to do. I mean, like,
Right.
because, for example, the opening sanctuary isn't just as simple as asking him. It's also
Yeah.
then you have to set it up for him. So basically, he, like, opens up a little cabin for you, like, within the grounds, and, like, he does stuff. So it's not just like, can we do it? Sure, great. All right, let's go do something else. So, yeah.
Inga turns to Robar. Robar, do you remember that note we wrote back when we were like at the ruins of like your family's castle?
Yes. We don't write a lot of
Because-
notes, but I remember that one.
Yeah, because we should maybe like. Well, I'm assuming that like the time has like now come by now to
Yeah.
go
Why?
to the inn.
That was on my mind as well. Sticking out the truth behind what happened to my family and who's there, and yeah, I mean,
Do we know?
you have the
about this?
time.
River
think we
doesn't. Tony might. Wait,
I think
wait, no,
it's-
River was with us already back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we
'cause
like.
Tony and River were off by ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
mean,
think we
yeah.
told you guys when we like rejoined.
Oh,
I
okay.
think we hand.
I believe that's right.
explained-
I believe
Okay.
you did
Yeah,
tell
like
me,
we explain what happens to you. You explain what happened to us. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, Robar is keen to head home. Whether or not anyone wants to come with him.
Well, no, we left like the note to say we will be then
Yeah.
and then at
Oh,
what was
that's
the name
happened,
of Dindy's inn again?
Oh,
Denise.
God. Give me a second. I'll find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there basically.
I was about to say the last homely house. No. Definitely not the last homely house.
Yeah, I
his-
have the letter written down actually.
The last homely house was like the
I know.
place where all the blood was.
It was the yeah, right, exactly. No, it's the Easterly Inn.
The Easterly
Yes.
Inn, yeah, I just saw that one.
Yes,
Um,
and it actually says in descriptions a homely house. Like, go to hell, game, attempted to confuse what I already know.
right. I feel like there's work to be done here, I think. Part of the reason that I left home was to build bridges between different communities and different people. And I think that if I stay here, I could do some of that work. And prepare a way for us get to know Bjorn better and ask if perhaps we could rely on the homely house on the last homely house for support in the future, no matter where we go. But I would accompany you if you want further assistance.
If you've got stuff to do here, you can do that. I don't ask anyone else to come with me. It might be dangerous. I know that there are orcs involved, so that'd be a good idea to just do this one on my own, or Inga, if you're coming.
You're going nowhere without me.
Right. Of course. What about you, Tony?
I think I need to stay here for a while.
All right, then we do what we did last time. We'll head off together, and you two head off together, or stay here.
That seems good.
But yeah, before I leave, like I found a thing. I'm just gonna give it to Bjorn.
What? Oh! Oh!
Well,
No,
Bjorn's
it's just
outside.
a sec. It's just a sec at this point. She's just holding up like a
Oh, the
a
sack. Oh, I
sack.
see.
Bjorn's
It's like
outside
puts it
right
on
now.
the table, opens it, and then like reveals what's inside. Like this was with Walter. Don't
You
know
just-
if it's important.
So Bjorn is out. Okay, Bjorn's outside. So you're just doing this with your group here at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just opening up the table. Okay, so this head rolls out.
What? Oh! No, Stone. Ugh, stay away. No.
Stone's like,
No, you don't want to. That is disgusting.
So I'll reach over and kind of roll it upright and look at the face and see if I recognize it at all.
you do not. It looks, it's mummified. It looks very old. maybe ancient's a stretch, but definitely not something like in the last couple months.
we do
Still
a
this
lore
shock
or-
of dark hair that exists. Say again?
Can we do a lore or a traditions check on it?
Not
or-
likely to work. Well, I mean, you could if you wish. It's not likely to tell you much more than like certain cultures that do things of this kind. If you're
Sure.
really going to find out info, though, you're probably going to need to do a research lore to find out the information because this is really unusual.
I'd quite like to know which cultures do this.
Okay, sure.
Is that lore or traditions? Or...
It would be lore, I think.
Can the rest of us do that too?
Sure. All right. I shall take that into
Oh, natural 20!
Boom.
Wow.
We're good rolls, actually.
Nice. All right. So Terry knows all of the things. No. Okay. So Robar in the river. You know that there are some cultures, especially in the Southlands, but also at times there were some cultures that were associated with ancient races of men that would sometimes mummify their dead, usually not to preserve them for some trip to the afterlife, but to preserve them for ritualistic use later. But the thing that Robar and the River do not know, and Terry, and Inga does know, is that the history of this is such that for a bandit, someone like Walter the Bloody, of course he did have designs on being a king, as he made very clear to all of you, but for him to have something like this is extremely odd because this is not something which has been done for decades, maybe centuries, which suggests that Walter had this from something far older or was given it to him by something far older, more ancient, and with a connection to the men of ancient days. Now, more details you can't get, as I say, unless you do that open lore, but it suggests that there's a lot more to Walter maybe than just, he's this bandit king guy.
Well, I mean, I've traveled a lot in my life, and I've heard of these things. I don't know what this exactly is, but sooner or later we should try to find out where Walter got this, because
Yeah.
Well, if
something
you're,
like this is not common.
if you're
What-
journeying out to the world, could you not? Do you want to be able to look that up?
Excuse me?
Something we
As
could do
you're-
on the way.
Yeah.
You know, something that struck me about Walter is that he wasn't clever. You know, he was just a bully.
He was
Kind of
terrible.
struck me that he was a bad philosopher.
He was.
But you know, it struck me that
Also,
someone
a
else,
colossal asshole, just saying.
yeah, so it struck me that someone else maybe had a hand in his rise to power. You know,
I mean, the whole
might be
situation.
worth looking into.
The whole situation seems so unlikely. I mean, that to draw malcontents to him like moths to a flame like that. I mean, he had some smattering of lineage, but to have this as well, that seems very strange. Do you want to look into it as you journey?
I doubt we would find anything interesting.
We can ask around. The Easterly Inn's a good place to meet people who know things.
I guess so.
I mean, it's also for
DM
idiots.
check.
I mean, my idea was
I'm
to like
sure
leave it
that,
here for
like-
now.
I mean, I'm sure
like-
Dindy would be happy to claim that he knows a lot about everything, so that would be...
But so
Oh, a head! Let me tell you more about heads. I know about heads.
between the four of us, do we want to have like Tawny and River establishing sanctuary and patronage, and one of you guys doing the lore research, and while Will is while Rabar is investigating what happened? Like, are those things that are all compatible?
Harp?
Oh, I thought you were asking each other. Of course
I was
it's-
asking you because
Oh, you're asking me.
The DM check, yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
see. It's certainly compatible. The question will be sort of the direction that you go. If you go up to the Easterly Inn, you may or may not find someone who would have more information, but they're certainly not going to tell you, oh, this is what the head means. What they would probably tell you if you find someone to do this is a place that would know, a library, a great city, a store of knowledge that you would then have to travel to.
Okay.
That is something which you could do, but you know, if you just go to the inn, you're not going to gather, you're unlikely to gather the information just from going there directly. But of course you could do it. This fellowship phase is probably going to last about 3 to 4 months, you would guess.
So since I rolled a 20 earlier,
Yes.
and like my explanation for that is that like Ingrid simply like met somebody who knew about this stuff and one night told her at a bar or something.
I see. Okay.
Would she know a place to check out or a person to ask about this? Would she remember?
It's quite possible. There are several places, but one, of course, which you may or may not be comfortable with, was the areas in Erebor and the Lonely Mountain have great stores of lore and knowledge and information, and especially in the ancient places where Girion of Dale went. Now, you may remember that I told you that Valter himself may have had some connection in the distant past with Girion.
Oh, right.
So there may be something in Dale that would give you some information about that. But that's your old stomping ground, Zynga, and I don't know how you feel about...
No, she would be fine with it. She didn't leave because she hated the place.
No, I know,
Left
but I just didn't know,
because
like, memories and all that. I just didn't know.
no.
But I'm just letting you know. Yes, so that would be an area for sure. Now, that, I should say, you probably would not be able to go to both places at once. That would be something where either Robar would accompany you or the two of you would split up.
No. Well, I suppose that back home, at the Lonely Mountain, people, like, we might be able to find out more about this, but yeah, this is like not urgent, I suppose. So I just like stick with you and go to the Easterly Inn for now.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to say going with Robar for the moment. Robar is going to the Easterly Inn to find out about the family and notes and things like that. Okay.
Yep.
And then River, your suggestion was that you and Tani would be opening sanctuaries / getting patronage. From a logical point of view, I'll let you change it if you don't want to do that. But from a logical point of view, I think Tani would be the logical person to ask about patronage from Bjorn. But again, that's up to whether you guys want to do that.
Well, I was going to ask that next was, like, to me, the more important thing is the sanctuary. So if you think that the patronage makes sense for Tani, then that would be fine to split it that way. But if you don't think so or want to hold off on that, then I'd suggest you do the sanctuary and I do more training stone. But I'm happy either way.
I'm trying to figure out how the fact that I already live here factors into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not at the last homely house, but I live.
Right. Well, patronage is a step up, though. I mean, like,
Right,
he would
I
have
know.
defended you. Like, you know, if someone tried to attack you, you would have been subject to his justice. But he certainly wouldn't have given you access to his house, his material. Like, I'll give you stuff to make your cakes better. I'll give you advice. Like, that stuff he wouldn't have done. He basically would have been like, good job, Tawny, you know, slap you on the back and that's it. So patronage means that you're kind of, he becomes a little bit of a mentor for you in an unusual way. A mentor of someone with great violence and rage who nonetheless understands, respects your position, you know. So it's up to you, really, Trin.
On the other hand, like, it does, like, I mean, the River also really admires Bjorn and stuff, and if she were going to, yeah,
it could go either way.
You could appreciate. So, like, it's, yeah, to me, the most important thing is just that we do establish a sanctuary. So I leave this entirely up to you as to whether or not that makes sense. But I also had a quick question about the gain a title.
Right.
What does that do?
So,
and how does one do it?
Right. Well, so gaining a title basically means, as I return to my flip open thing, give me a second. I'll show you. I'll tell you what it is.
I doubt it'll be applicable to River, but I just was curious all the same.
Yeah. It is considered, so it's one of the undertakings that you can have. Most cultures, sort of, a player hero will be granted a title by their own culture based on deeds performed and in recognition of basically a native child rising in the world. So there's a couple of ways to think about that. This may not apply yet in terms of story terms, I would say, but it's sort of like what I was just saying to Robar before, which is that if Robar wants to go and do this stuff, in a way he was looking into his family, his history, and trying to gather information about his family, which may lead him to a title. In a similar way, there may, and I won't tell you whether there will be, but there will be moments where you're going to be dealing with Ruskabel and the Woodman and all that. Like, you're going to be doing more with them. And at those moments, there may be opportunities during a fellowship phase afterwards to be able to receive a title from them, to pursue that. And what it would basically allow you to do is it would allow you to be given a greater amount of sort of land or dwelling within the community. It would perhaps allow you to receive even more aid from them. They might even send one of their own with you as like a as an assistant, almost like that would go along with you possibly. So those are things which could happen in the event that you received a title. But it's one of those undertakings that I think fits best when it's coming for sort of story reasons. Now, I should say that you will not always have a fellowship phase after every adventuring phase, but most of them you will, but not always. But
no, this totally makes sense to me. Like, everything that you described is stuff that River wants to strive towards, but that she wouldn't be at yet, I think. Like, her whole sort of purpose of being out in the world is to do precisely that.
Right.
So it's not something that it would make sense for her to have gained at this point.
Probably not yet, right? I would agree with that, yeah. But I think it's something which definitely I can see in the future, though, for sure. Yep. Cool. So I have Robar going in to find out about family notes. I have Inga going with Robar. So Inga still can think about what she'd like to do mechanically during that time, and we'll sort of see if we can make that work out. Tawny Bear, the River is going to be trying to open a sanctuary, I think, if I understand this correctly, with Bjorn. Maybe, I guess, depends on on what Trent decides to do. So what is Tawny thinking about doing?
Tawny is leaning towards the patronage.
Okay. So, and I won't hold you to those absolutely, but I just want to put little notes. So assuming that's the case, then you're going to open Sanctuary, River, if I understand that correctly?
Yeah, if that's the case, yeah.
If that's the case, all right. So
if it's not the case, if Tawny decides not to do that and wants to open the Sanctuary, then I'll make a decision between Bjorn as patron or Training Stonewar.
Lovely. All right.
In a way, it makes sense that Tawny wouldn't go for the opening a sanctuary because he lives near here.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's why I also thought the
makes
patronage
sense,
made more sense. Because you could, so I think that works nicely. Actually, I've been continue to be surprised at how, you guys didn't do this, like, we didn't script this, like, how is it going to look? But it just seems to work out nicely that these things work out this way. So, lovely. This is good stuff, folks. And in that case, I'm just going to tell you as your last little bit of info that you have completed, as I said, episode 3. Episode 4 is entitled, I'm only going to give you the title. Episode 4 is entitled Those Who Tarry No Longer. Not Terry Tunes. Tarry, T-A-R-R-Y. Those Who Tarry Tunes No Longer.
Tarry Tunes.
Those who cartoon.
Those who draw cartoons do things.
Confirmed.
Those who tarry no longer. In other words, those who do not stick around. Those who depart. So you'll have a chance to see what that means. But we are going to bring this to a close. This is a wonderful session, guys. Really, really good stuff. Intense, as I had thought it would be, but powerful. And you all did a very good job sort of playing within your characters and construction. So it was good stuff. Hey, what's up, Shabby? How you doing, man? Yes, it was very, very good stuff. And so, lovely stuff from all of you. I will start as always.
We're all level 3 now.
You're all level 3.
We can add.
Oh, yeah.
You are level 3. Yes, and I am now going to let Amal start as I usually do by talking about where the fine people will find you next before they see you back on here next month. And remember, folks, next month, in all likelihood, we will have these folks in a big ArvCon related session. So we will talk more about that, but they're going to be doing their normal thing, but they'll be doing it for the benefit of charity in one of those cases. So
oh my goodness.
So yes, anyway, where will the fine people find you, Mel?
So I am going to be one of the guests of honor at PenguaCon, which is the first weekend in May. So I don't know if that's going to have knock-on effects for the second session in May or not, but we'll see. But from Thursday the 3rd until Monday the 7th, I'm going to be at PenguaCon, which is Detroit-ish. And it's the first time I've gone, so I don't know very much more about the con than that, except that it's kind of a combination tech and genre con. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope to see some of you there. And if I do, then please come and say hi, because that would be really cool. You can also find, I'm on a massive social media hiatus right now. So I'm on hiatus until June 15th in order to try and finish my doctoral dissertation in a timely fashion. So you will not, in fact, likely see me on Twitter. But I do have a drip account, which is sort of Kickstarter's answer to Patreon, which was an answer to Kickstarter, because that's how these things go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you can find that at d.rip/amal-l.muhtad. Sorry, dash again. I'll put a link to it somewhere. And there I'm posting things like essays, reviews, poems, things like that. So that and my blog at amalmuhtad.com are probably the places where you can find me on the internet for the next couple of months, beyond here, which is the best internet, obviously.
Oh.
So yeah,
that is I'm glad to hear it, and as I said before, it's such a pleasure to have you having joined the group, and
it is so much fun. It makes me so happy.
I'm glad.
Actually, one last thing.
Yes.
I may also this sort of magical thing happened right before I went on Twitter hiatus, which was that I made what I didn't think was a very remarkable tweet about Tolkien. And about how a lot of the time when people at genre conventions and stuff have panels that say beyond Tolkien, something. A lot of the time they talk about Tolkien as a really sort of as a byword for ubiquitous, boring, done to death fantasy.
Yep.
Which never actually reflects my experience of Tolkien. So I was just suggesting,
Preach it.
why don't we ever talk about Tolkien in terms of things that are now rare in fantasy and that we don't actually see very much. And it spawned this it went super viral. It was thousands of likes, and as a consequence of that, I saw a lot of con runners also saying that they did in fact want to include such panels in the next year's worth of cons, which made me really excited. All of this to say that my NPR editor was also like, hey, do you want to write something for NPR about this? And I was like, sure. So I may in fact do that. And what I wanted, the reason it's related to here, obviously beyond Tolkien, is that I had in fact been writing an essay for Drip about my experience playing Adventures of Middle-earth and having grown up reading Tolkien, and how it kind of closes this really beautiful circle for me in terms of D&D, because D&D is inspired from Tolkien, but then here now is this beautiful game that actually captures so much of the spirit of the books. So that is something that I hope we'll have to share by the next session, but maybe keep an eye out. Oh, also I'm going to have a column in the New York Times on the 22nd of this month, which is a Sunday.
That is awesome about the column in the New York Times. I am super excited about all of that. Everything you said was tremendous, and I saw that. I think it was 2 a.m. when I should have been in bed, and I sort of saw it, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just tweeting. I'm just like, hell yeah, absolutely, 100%. Because I was like, oh man, I could not agree. I mean, Amal and I have talked about this before. I could not agree more about my frustration with sort of a misunderstanding of what Tolkien does and doesn't do. So yeah. 100%. This is, we all agree with. I mean, I got all Tolkien fans. This is what we did. People don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get the man. You don't get the man. And by the way, again, I should note to everybody that the Fall of Gondolin was announced, which is going to be amazing. So anyway.
I'm totally going to get to review it.
Yep. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. So anyway, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So thank you, Amal, as always. Look forward to next month already. Terry, great stuff today. I really, really love the friendship that has been established between Inga and Robar. I adore the whole, it's like the best kind of buddy film. I just adore it. It's really cool. It happened just organically, and it is the coolest thing. So I'm all about it. So good stuff, Terry. Where will the fine people
today? I need to talk about the fields.
So tell me about the.
There was one time before this where I had this many fields at a session, which was long ago. That was over 7 years ago. So at the end, I had this many fields going on. No, this was really, really touching.
I'm glad. Well, you were a big part of it. And I was saying, Will, I was saying you just quickly, Will, when you were off, that I was really adoring the buddy film thing between you and Inga. Man, do I love that. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
So, Terry, great stuff tonight, and I'm glad that you felt that way. Where will the fine people see or hear from you next?
Well, I assume over here on this channel at the next session. And other than that, at the end of next month, I will be attending the Comic Salon in Erlangen here in Germany, which is the biggest comic convention in Germany, and an absolute blast, best convention I've ever been to. If you happen to be in the area and happen to come by, then you will be able to find me at the Toons Up booth as every time since like for 10 years. Oh no, so now I think. But yeah, I will be there and will be drawing stuff hopefully. And yeah, also I don't know if it's just like the painkillers that I have to take a lot of right now because of my teeth, but like drawing has been okay-ish lately.
I like to hear that.
Oh my god! Yes! Yeah, it's been more than okay. Sorry, I'm interrupting only because Tommy did. She drew me as a gem from Steven Universe, and I love it so much. And please, could you post it to the chat because I'm off Twitter, so I can't see it.
I will later. I have to look up, get out the link, but yes, I shall.
Oh, so good.
Yep.
I'm very glad you liked it, but yeah, like I've been like doing like basically slowly catching up at like doodling and stuff like that to like get back into the flow, stuff like that, and also trying to learn this new art program that I bought for myself. But yeah, that's so I've been drawing a bit more the past few days, I guess, weeks, whatever. So yeah, that's a thing.
That's good. I like to hear that. That's good. Cool. Thanks, Terry. And we will, of course, be talking quite a bit. Moving right along, back up to Will. Will, it was fun to see Robar's consistency of character there, too, which is kind of like, yeah, fine, but, just remember, you do the wrong thing and I'll kill you. Like,
yeah, he's an interesting one. I think, like, he doesn't get as involved in certain things as he should, and he gets way too involved in some things that he probably shouldn't. So he's an interesting one to play, and it's definitely fun playing off that, that buddy cop with Inga, but it's funny because he's like super loyal to her, and will do, like he'll go against all of his principles for that, but then he's really happy to tell a guy that he'll kill him if he messes up with his stepsister, sister-in-law, whatever it was.
His foster sister, basically.
Foster sister, that's right, yeah. So yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing where level 3 will take him. Hopefully get a bit more hit points so that I won't die quite as often and be quite as terrible as I have been throughout the rest of the 20 episodes now? This is episode 20?
This is episode 20, yeah. This is episode 20, and we are on to episode 4, which is, by the way, about roughly halfway through the Wilderland Adventures campaign, roughly. Roughly.
Wait, do any other mechanical things happen at level 3? Do we have to like choose different stuff?
Specialty.
Yes, I think it's a specialty. So you're actually going to be deciding about a particular branch that you're going to be following, but we will talk about that more off air. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, you can find me over at Encounter Roleplay. We've got a new season show starting next week. So next Monday is when they'll start. We're sponsored by Fantasy Grounds, D&Dice, Kobold Press, and City of Mist. So come over and watch a plethora of RPG games being played. And I will, again, someday play more Adventures in Middle-earth on my own channel because I really enjoyed doing that. And but for now, these Tuesdays scratch the itch of Tolkien that I need. So yeah, you can find me over there. It's been when are we next back? Like next month?
I know. People. I love. That's my favorite question because everyone's like, "Can we play soon?" Yes, it will be. Yes, it'll be in May. And I haven't yet decided if we're talking 2 or 3 weeks from now as the next session. Because technically it would be May 1st and May 8th if we did what we normally do. But the first may be a little bit busy. So I don't know. We'll see. Cool. First, I have to get myself caught up from 4 transcontinental flights in 3 weeks or whatever. So I got to get caught up with that. But yes, so.
All right, perfect.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Will, as always. And last but certainly not least, Tren, this was intense for Tawny as well. The reaction with, sort of coming out of the unconsciousness and then the swing and then Bjorn catching all that stuff was intense. And getting a new staff as well, sort of from Bjorn's power. So I hope I don't know how did you feel about the session for you and stuff? That's non-specific.
Yeah, it is. It was there were some moments that were kind of teeter-tottering for me, where especially during the trial, where I was like, it's like, okay, we got this. Ooh, wait,
That horrible roll.
no, not just the role, just there were moments where, like, when Brunhild, came in and it, Bjorn started responding to it like, okay, well then fine, she dies, and I'm like, no, and this is not how this is supposed to go. And I'm standing back there trying to think, what the hell am I going to do? What would Tawny say to this? Because he didn't really talk to Brunhild about this, and he barely talked to Oderic about it.
Right, but he did talk. But you had talked to Heartwolf a little bit, and Heartwolf had come and talked to you.
And when that finally occurred to me, I was like, oh wait.
Yep.
Wait,
Yep.
Wait, and it was right about the point that
No, this was Heartwolf. Not this.
Heartwolf,
I'm
the crazy
not
old man.
Helmgut, the crazy old
Oh,
man.
I thought you meant
Ha-ha,
like when
you think
Robar and Tawny
No, this
went
was
to talk
Heartwolf.
to the dead. Okay.
No, this was Heartwolf.
Okay. I thought I would get you here again.
it was right at the point where Inga started talking, and when she first stepped forward and said, I'll speak for it, I was like, what am I going to do? What can I do? Wait, the crazy old man. Yes. And I was like, so if you watch the VOD, you'll see there were points I was like, because every time I was about to cut it was like to say, all right, while they're doing this, Tawny's just going to step up and say this in Heartwolf's ear, and that's all it was going to be. He was going to be and then back out and let it go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, as long as I get to say that, everything's fine.
Yep.
And it's no big deal. So that was really fun. I have already long since chosen my specialty. He's definitely going to be a master healer, which is going to potentially make Inga even more angry about his non-combatant status, given what happens when you become a master healer. But on the plus side, his healing will be twice as good as what it is. So
Every time he punches someone, they just pushes a cake in their mouth and they heal. Like, God damn it! Like,
no, if I use my hands of a healer, it heals 2d8 plus 4 instead of 1d8.
Well, people, I imagine the party will not be displeased about that. Yep,
No.
absolutely.
And if I take 10 minutes working on it, I get to multiply that times my wisdom thing, which is 4. So it'll be
Nice.
8d8 plus 4.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah. I think really our role is going to be like, let no harm come to Tawny.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
All right. Well, where will they find you next, sir?
Thursday, I think. Yeah, Thursday. I'll be over at Not So Speedruns channel. We are doing our last episode of City of Mist. I almost said Blade.
It's the final episode, huh?
The final episode of season 1.
Wow.
And then we got to figure out what the heck is going to happen next. So we get to figure out what's going to happen to my character Calvin, the satyr, who has just effectively been nominated to take over the chair position of a monstrous charity thing, because the two people who were the primaries and were like, you know what, I don't trust you, and I don't trust you either. Well, let's pick him. And it's like, wait, what? So this is going to be interesting.
Yep, that's what happens. It's
Yeah.
good. It's going to be cool. And of course, Trent will also be back with us on Infinity and Beyond, a campaign which is also going to be this campaign anyway. The Rise of Tiamat will be wrapping up next month, and so there's going to be some interesting stuff happening with Trendane's character Fifely in that campaign. A couple of things happening. So. That will be good times. But I'm going to let these guys get out of here. I have to start getting ready myself. And so I thoroughly enjoyed every part of this. It was a wonderful session. You guys did a great job, as always. And couldn't be happier with the overall track of the campaign and with the players within it. And so I will say I am looking forward to next month. But until then, to Tawny, to Robar, to Inga, and to the river, by which I mean to Trendane, to Will, to Tari, and to Amal. Thanks so much, everyone. And I will see you all next month. Check, we get some love for the players. And players, love you all. I will see you next month.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Alrighty. So there we go. That is going to do it for us. This was awesome. I really enjoyed this a lot. Again, I just am really, really impressed with how much we've gotten out of this work. Like, I really love how well Cubicle 7 has gotten it together, not just because they sponsor us, but I just love what they've been able to do with this. It's really, really fun to see how well they've captured the feel of Tolkien in this, so it's been really, really awesome. All right, now, we've got to do something very quickly, folks, because I've got to get running out of here. That took a little longer, the sort of dismount. It made sense because it was after an episode, the full episode 3, but in the meantime, I've got to get us getting ready here on this Chat Chosen Game of the Month. Now, for those of you that were not here, I want to remind everybody, this is supposed to happen on Saturday, but there is a real possibility that it's not going to happen, and it has to do with our vocalists and with scheduling. This month has just been a nightmare for scheduling, largely because I've been gone and have missed, therefore, 3 streaming sessions, and because the folks, because Russ, who of course is one of the core members of the Our Vocalists, is not going to be here because he's away for his honeymoon. So it means that scheduling them has been very difficult. So I may need to put the 21st as the time that we do the Our Vocalists. If not, then the Chat Chosen Game of the Month will happen on Saturday. And so I'm going to start ARVBot here. And I'm going to have ARVBot appear on the screen like so. And so this question I have is, what game should ARV play this month? So I need us to move our nominations forward quickly here, folks. I will take the first 6 nominations. The Honeycake Moon, exactly. I will take the first 6 nominations for games, just 1 per nomination per person, please. 6 nominations for games that we've got. So we've got Red Alert, last day of June. What's up, Chaotix, by the way? I saw you came in. I'm sorry, I didn't say hi to you before, though. What's up, man? Red Alert 2, Saturday Morning RPG, 7 Days to Die. No, I'm not going to do 7 Days to Die. I have to veto Croy just because I don't play horror games of any kind, and so I don't. That's not. Yeah, sure. I always ignore you. Not. Inaccurate, sir. So, last day of June, Red Alert 2, Saturday Morning RPG, Growlancer 2. Remind me, Growlancer, is that an RPG-ish nonstop? Remind me, Growlancer? Also, Dragonspear, thanks for the inspiration. Actually, they kind of needed it, because if it wasn't for the number that got them over that hump of the 10 or 11, it would have been even worse. Like, that could have been much worse, so... You're pouting? Tactical RPG. I did not. I said hi. Yes, I did say hi to you. I said hi to you, Dragonspear. The problem is you guys are just, you're used to me saying so many hellos to you that it's like, you know. Hold on a second. All right, I need 2 other Echo, as in Echo the Dolphin Echo. Is that, Croy, is that what you're talking about? Echo as an ECCO? ECO, ECCO? Echo by Strip. What is that, Croy? I'll happily do it, but what is it? Yeah, I used all the hellos. You guys used up your store. You're out now until 2019. Okay, I'll take a look nonstop. Minute. Okay, what is Minute, Shabby? Also, Shabby, we will be doing the raffle thing probably on Saturday the 21st, but I've been just running around like crazy, so I haven't been able to schedule it yet. Oh, cool. I'll dig that. Yeah, that's so Minute sounds cool, but Croy, yeah, is that a group game? Because it needs to be a game that I can play solo. Is it a solo game or not? Other than that, I'm happy with all these. Last Day of June, Red Alert 2, Saturday Morning RPG, Growlancer 2, and then Minute. But I just want to double check. Is Echo a group game or not? So let me know, Croy, and then okay. You can play it solo on a server. Okay. Well, let's leave it in there now. So we have a good set of 6. All right, here we go. Poll is open. All right, now remember, we're going to take the top 3 of these are going to be the ones, but let's try to do this vote quickly, guys, okay? Because I got to get out of here. So I'd like you to vote, please. You do $vote space and then the number of the one you want. So Last Day of June is number 1, Red Alert 2 is 2, Saturday Morning RPG is 3, Growlancer 2 is 4, Echo is 5, Minute is 6. So those are your 6 choices. Go ahead and get the votes in. We will take the top 3, and those are the ones that will be in the mix. So, top 3. Cheating if I voted for your own. All right, so far we have lots of individual votes, but we have like one vote. We only have one vote that's more than one. So we need a couple votes for something else. So let's jump in a couple of others here if we can. What else have we got? Anybody else? Last call. We need some more votes. I can't do this with 5 ties. We're gonna need some. We're gonna need some things to vote. Did you say it's cheating to vote for your own game? No, it's not cheating. What? It's not cheating to vote for your own game. I understand why you voted for it. Don't be bringing in whatever Galadriel or bot or whatever the heck your cheat.org.bot dragon. Oh man. Apathy or Risen, it's actually $ vote, just so you know. Okay, now we got there we go. Harmony Reason. Okay, so it looks like Saturday Morning RPG is definitely getting some love, and we got Growlancer 2 and we got Echo. All right. All right, last call. There we go. All right. So we've got Red Alert 2, we've got Growlancer 2, and we've got Echo. All right. Since it's sort of both single and multiplayer, and the suggestion was, Croy, I believe you said that you weren't 100% sure about it versus like single versus multi. I think we're just going to have those three, which I know we can play solo. So we're going to go with Red Alert 2, Saturday Morning RPG, and Growlancer. So the poll is closed. So it's going to be, so can I ask one of the mods, either my wonderful mods, either Chaotix, Dragon Spirit, Terry Tunes, or 10 of Clubs, one of my wonderful mods, can I ask you to just put together a straw poll with Saturday Morning RPG, Red Alert 2, and Growlancer 2, and then can I ask them to link that to the ! next game command? That would be super, super helpful. So again, Saturday Morning RPG, Red Alert 2, and Growlancer 2. If you guys could do that, that would be lovely. Yeah, I'm fine with all of those. I have never played Saturday Morning RPG. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I have not, I think I played a little bit of Command and Conquer, but I haven't played Red Alert 2. And I have not played Growlancer, but if it's a tactical RPG, I'm good to try it, so I'm happy to give that a shot. And again, this is assuming that we do that on Saturday the 21st, but it's not a guarantee. So it just depends on how things kind of break down. We'll see. Okay, but that said, so those are the three: Saturday Morning RPG, Red Alert 2, and Growlancer 2 are those, and so I'm going to exit out of that. Yeah, I am going to check that. That's cool. It actually seems really neat, Croy, so I will check it out for sure. I am definitely going to check that out. But now I got to get out of here, guys. At the top of the hour, I'm going to be playing more Dungeons & Dragons, D&D with GOG. The list is, let's see, what did I just say? It is Saturday Morning RPG. There we go. Saturday Morning RPG, Red Alert 2, and Growlancer 2. I think I spelled that right, but if I didn't, then I'm sorry. But those are basically the three. Yes, but I've got to get out of here. Top of the hour, D&D with GOG, Storm King's Thunder, with Pyron Jade, Darksaber 2K, Screaming Joypad, and Tasty Chai. I'm really looking forward to that. And then again, you will see me again on Friday when we have got Esper Genesis, our space RPG, which will be coming to us. Again, that is coming fast. So looking forward to that. And again, I'll talk more about ArvCon and all that good stuff, but not now because I got to get going. Thanks to everyone who made this an awesome stream today. Thank you to the wonderful mods today. Thank you to Chaotix, to Dragon Spear, to Terry Tunes. Wonderful playing today, Terry. Thank you so much. Thank you to 10 of Clubs. Thank you to Classic or Nonstop, Uncle Elias, Apathy Arisen, Cog Whistle. Thank you to Darksaber 2K. We'll be talking to Darksaber more just in a moment. Thank you to ECAG, Electrical Skateboard. Thank you to Aranth, Jagtris, Croy. Thank you to Moves. Thank you to Nergabert. Thank you to Optic Nerve. What's up, man? Thank you to Plurian, to Poltergeist Zero. Thank you to QC Ben Bang. I'm not sure if I've seen you in here before. I hope you like what you saw and heard and will follow and support the stream with subbing in the Patreon if you can. Thank you to Questionable Results, to Scratagus, to Shabby Orange. Again, that raffle is coming soon, Shabby. Thank you to Spam. Thank you to Streep. Thank you to Trendane. Wonderful play today. Also, thanks to Encounter Roleplay, to Will. Great job today, Will. Thank you to With Intent, and thank you to Explode Fever. Thank you guys so much. You are all the best. I love you all. Best viewers on Twitch. And no raid today because we're going to be heading over to GOG in just about 25 minutes. So thank you. The games that won are Saturday Morning RPG, Red Alert 2, and Growlancer 2. And in fact, you guys can check the link that he just put in there right now. He's going to link that up to next game. Right now, Red Alert 2 has a slight lead, but it's very early, only 4 votes. So you can check that out. And yeah, that'll be good stuff. Thank you so much, Dragon. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody else. You guys are the best. And I will see all of you wonderful people, he said, very, very soon. That's it for me. Catch you over at GOG in just about 25 minutes. And thanks everyone for watching today. Wonderful work out of my players today. Thank you so much to them. And I will see all of you wonderful people very soon. Until then, be good to each other.